What the fucking hell's going on here?
Bloody hell. How hot is it?
That's
What are we
ruined
using
some...
to fan myself? Oh, it's a crash.
That's ruined
Yeah,
some
how are you?
monetisation there. Hang on, who's that?
It's warm. It's a wee bit warm. Apparently it's actually get a bit chillier
Hello, mate.
tomorrow, which is kind of back to normal.
Hello.
What the bloody hell are you doing here?
Well, I don't know. I was sitting in front of my computer and I'm just suddenly your face appears.
Yeah, you're still going with the blind panther thing there, aren't you? You fucking wanker. I'm just trying to ruin monetisation. I've been beamed into a channel that's not mine.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad.
That's good.
This is like a channel hijack, isn't it?
Well, I have to say, yeah.
The fuck are you doing on my channel? Go and piss off. Fucking hell. Jesus
Bloody
Christ.
hell.
I go for a piss. I start a live streaming. Where the hell did you come from?
I don't know, my mum wouldn't tell me.
Hell.
Granddad's
What
turned
are
up.
you
look.
doing here, Dale? Bloody hell. Sorry, guys. That went a bit tits up. The fact he couldn't stop the video. Yeah, good evening. Good evening, one and all. How are we? Yeah, we were playing a little joke there. I'm actually down at Panther's house. How far was it? I think it was 601 miles in total. I travelled. It's a fair old distance. I dropped my daughter off just not shy of Land's End, and then I came up to where Panther is. So how are you, Dale?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm exhausted. I had to travel exactly 2 feet to this chair.
I could say how that'd tie you out.
You know what? It's like being in a film set being down here. It's funny. It's a bit smaller than you imagine it. All things like that always look bigger, eh? Weird.
Well, that's because you only ever seen that 6-foot rectangle.
That's very, very true. I know. So, listen, who have we got in tonight? There was absolutely no way. Up till about 2 minutes ago, we weren't even going to go live. And we thought, why not? Why not? So we've got 5 people in. Good evening. Who have we got? We've got Stephen. We've got Matt. How you doing, guys? We've got Neil. Evening, Ox. And Highlander. Good stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. So it's a very impromptu. That would be, yeah. We need to show that. Oh, the Dale beat you to it.
That's all right. If Del can do the moderating, I can sit back and enjoy the stream. Carry on.
No, you lazy git. You bloody do some work.
Oh, you should be cushy. I mean, you're called Delboy after all.
That's very true.
Your big Czechoslovakian mouse clicking all the lights.
I've always liked your house. I remember when wagon wheels were that size, on that wall.
I'll tell you what, mate. If it was really my house, that wouldn't be there. That'd have something completely different in it.
How's the weather up there, Dale? It's absolutely awesome. I'm sweating like fucking, I don't know, Gary. I'm knocking at the door, but anyway,
It's been one of those days where it's still warm, but it's actually been so overcast today. I kept thinking it was going to rain. Do you know what I mean? And it's not rained at all.
You could probably use some rain, I think, eh?
Well, yeah,
Stiflingly warm, bloody hell.
Well, it can rain as much as it likes while I'm indoors. So, I mean, as you know, Del, because I sent you a photograph earlier on, and you called me a bastard. We went down the coast. We went down the coast earlier on, and there's a couple of arcades down where we went today, and they're literally just ticket machines and grain grabbers and fruit machines. And I was explaining to Alan, when I come down here for the first time, before I lived here, because this is like the area that my wife comes from. When we come down here on holiday, I remember going to those arcades and playing Street Fighter 2 and games from the mid-90s, and they were great. And now you go in and there, and it's literally tickets, cranes, fruit machines, and maybe, if you're really lucky, a House of the Dead or a Time Crisis 3 that seem to move around.
Right.
What went wrong, do you reckon?
I don't know. It was such a fun time when I used to go to the seaside, because I used to go to Barry Island. And if anybody's ever been to Barry Island, they'll know that they've got this little roller coaster type, log flume type thing. But then all along the promenade, it was just a sea of arcade machines or fish and chip shops or whatever. And going with your parents, there'd be those little machines where you put 2p's in, and they're all stuck like magnets to the end of the bar that moves forward so that you can win stuff. Or there was those claw machines, where you could win a teddy bear, or there was an egg or something, and they wouldn't pick them up. And then it was a wash with loads of arcade machines, from the 80s and so forth. So
where was that?
Absolutely fantastic.
When you went to when you were going to arcades, where did you go?
Me,
You said Barry Island.
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch that.
We had a once a year fair that would turn up at our town, and any other arcade machines would be in pubs, leisure centres, chip shops. So you never saw the latest, because those machines were like rented and probably swapped over every 6 months or something, and it'd be whatever the store owner wanted to pay for the rent. So it could be something really old, or it could be a multi-machine.
There's something that only our generation can really sort of understand. There was something really magical about walking into an arcade and basically discovering what machines were there. It's like, they've got a Golf, they've got a Phoenix, whatever. That was just magical. I mean, I didn't have the sort of the luxury of living near any arcades. Certainly in the early days, the only time I got to play arcade machines was when I went up to the sports centre, and it was originally a Space Invaders. And then I'm trying to think where we go. Yeah, it would be like my dad would take me down to the rugby club, and they always had an arcade machine. I think the first one they had, and I can never ever remember. Nobody's ever been able to find it. Any of you kind of MAME connoisseurs out there, it was a game. It was like Scramble, but it was underwater. Now I know a few people have kind of posted MAME games that were like that, but it just maybe it is the one. There is one you're kind of flying left to right, and you're a wee submarine. But yeah, the rugby club was magical. You went in there, they've got a new machine, whatever. But that's just something you couldn't grasp nowadays. I think we just take having video games at home for granted, and I feel very privileged to have grown up through that whole era. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, I think. I mean, I'll put the question out there, but I think the real death knell for the arcades was probably Sony's PlayStation, because you had arcade ports, didn't you, on there? Like
Ridge Racer,
Ridge Racer, and Ridge Racer Revolution, and that. I mean, they were perfect, weren't they? Near enough.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I'm just looking at. Sorry, Stephen, we're not ignoring you, buddy. Just Stephen saying there. A little second. Blackpool sound effects and arcade machines. Yeah, I mean that was the thing that drew you in as you're walking along. I mean, in my case, my mum and dad never took me to Blackpool, but I used to go down to the. There was a thing called the Play Scheme, and every year they would run a bus. I think it was like £5, you paid your £5 and they took you down to Blackpool, and it was just wonderful. You walk into an arcade and the full on. It was every sounder, every machine was fighting to get your attention.
And the one you heard most was normally Pac-Land. That fucking music.
Fuck off. There was, the one I can always remember. I mean, again, it was a story. I remember it was a student union in Edinburgh. I would be about 17, 18, and we were absolutely rat-arsed and going into this arcade. It was a student union arcade. And they had Gauntlet. It was the first time I set eyes on Gauntlet. They had, what do you call it? They had, what's it called? Jailbreak.
Jailbreak.
They had Green Beret. And Jailbreak is one of the loudest games.
The warden has been captured.
Don't let the escape. Woo, woo, woo.
And it's a really shit game.
That's shit, absolutely shit. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think what happened was, I mean, obviously video games, it was a completely new medium. We'd never seen before video games came along. TV was passive, or is that the right word? Yeah, it was you just looked at it,
yeah.
And suddenly this thing came along where you could actually affect the TV, whether it was a joystick or a gamepad. They went out for quite a few years, and it was an incredible time, and it was an amazing time. But then I think, as you say, we got computers, and let's face it, as much as I love my C64, the C64 was never going to compete with arcade games as much as we wanted it to. But then I think when eventually home hardware caught up with arcades, that was kind of the kick in the balls, and that was like the signal to end, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, the PlayStation and the Saturn. I mean, some of the arcade ports of shoot 'em ups, I'm pretty sure stuff like Esper Galuda and that, the bullet hell stuff. Saturn did it, one to one. It was great. So I mean, that kind of puts the mockers on the arcades. I was going to say, hello, Shinobi, or 5 Inobi, however you prefer it, mate.
Yeah, and we are actually sitting in the same room as each other.
Yeah. If he gets out of hand tonight, I can deck him.
I know which one would win.
Well, he's got less far to fall than I have.
I can run faster than you, though.
Not through a fucking closed door, you can't.
Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, I mean, as you say, the PlayStation, and it just became like a moot point. Why would you want to go to arcades when you were getting Arcade Perfect? I mean, were they still making arcade games when the PlayStation came out? Yeah,
there was arcade games being made. Well, it's still some being there. It's still quite massive in Japan.
I think
they have competitions and whatnot. But yeah, it is still quite a big thing. Japan still has arcades you can go in, and they've got them. They've got their candy cabs, and they've got stalls in front of them, and there's people who will just sit there with a great big pile of yen or tokens or whatever and just pump them in hour after hour, continually playing shoot 'em ups, fighting games and stuff like that. But over here, I know we've got like the play venues like in Bury and Blackpool and that, and there was a play, well, unrelated play here in this town. But that closed down last year for reasons we'd rather not talk about because everyone's been talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's just none about anymore. It just people seem to stop playing them, and I was just wondering, is that because the stuff in the home moved so far forward?
I mean, sorry, Dale, I was just a bit let you speak there. I mean, if you kind of relate it to the films, like movies, well, we're all sitting here with our 55-inch TVs and we've got streaming services. So why is there still a place for cinema, whereas there's not a place for arcade games and arcades?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Is it because I still sorry, Dale.
I was going to say it's just that there's no driving force, is there? I mean, I think Panther has a point that the PlayStation 1 is probably the cutoff point, because if you think about the machine that was popular before that, the Dreamcast, which still had absolutely tons of arcade games still coming out. There was House of the Dead, and there was still machines that were coming out, and they ported over those Sega games into the Dreamcast. The PlayStation didn't have that, and so therefore arcade shoot 'em ups were all parts of collections, Midway collections, Sega collections, all that sort of stuff. So you could turn around and say that's a valid point. The PlayStation 1 really was the point where that's where arcade really sort of like stopped, because Sega said they were pulling out of hardware anyway. I don't remember too much that was coming out from Capcom anymore, or for the PlayStation to have an arcade conversion of something. I mean, what did come out, lads, then on the PlayStation that was an arcade machine that came out and then it was ported over to the Sony PlayStation? What was around, do you think?
Well, I mean, other than Ridge Racer, I mean, a lot of the PlayStation stuff was, again, like you say, Capcom collections. I know
Point Blank.
Yeah. The first game I bought for my PlayStation 1 when I got it was Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Or
Zero 2 if you're in Japan. And that was, apart from like the loading times that you're obviously going to get from CD media, that was arcade perfect. I've played it since on my main cabinet, and loading aside, there's literally no difference between the two.
Yeah.
And when I remember seeing my mate, I think the Dreamcast, not the Dreamcast, the Sega Saturn came out, was it maybe 6 months before the PlayStation? My mate bought one, and I remember seeing Sega Rally, and Virtua Fighter 2 hadn't come out at that point. Was it Virtua? Well, Virtua Fighter came out, Sega Rally, and it was arcade perfect. It was absolutely arcade perfect, and I think it just at that point, it'd be interesting to actually talk to somebody from the industry back then if they thought, well, what's the point?
Well, don't start name dropping, you know where that leads to. I said that out loud, didn't I?
That's supposed to be an inner mind monologue. It's not supposed to come out into the real world.
Yeah, I'm no good at that.
You got to have a mind, though, ain't you, for that? Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that I think the PlayStation would have been still porting arcade machines, but within about 2 years, what really was out in the arcades that came out on the PlayStation? I mean, you mentioned Ridge Racer and stuff, but I don't think there was too many of those Ridge Racers. Were there out after that? I mean, Ridge Racer was out already, wasn't it? Ported across. It wasn't like like within 6 months of the arcade machine, it was coming out on the PlayStation. I mean, I'm talking that sort of production line.
The only ones I can think of on the PlayStation that were really, pretty much arcade version and were out around the same time. I mean, you had like the Street Fighter one I mentioned.
Tekken as well.
You had Tekken 1, 2, and 3 that came out pretty much the same, within months of the arcade ones, because I'm pretty sure the arcade boards for them were based on PlayStation hardware anyway. If, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But Soul
Calibur was a pretty accurate conversion for the Dreamcast.
I think that was on the PlayStation as well.
I think, was it?
Soul Calibur, yeah.
You're right.
Well, it was called Soul Blade over it, but it was out on the PlayStation.
But I remember, it came out in the Dreamcast, and it was. I think some people actually say it was actually better on the Dreamcast. I think they had more things. Yeah, but sorry, Neil. We're looking at the comments here. Well, Highlander saying there he played the hell out of Soul Calibur. It was virtual arcade perfect. Obviously, we spoke about Ridge Racer. We spoke about, I think, was it Daytona Racing came out as well? That was.
Yeah, they did. There was a Daytona as well, and it had that music as well, didn't it? Which was that was another one that used to ring out of arcades in the 90s.
Sorry, we're looking up here. I've actually got the screen on up there. Evening, Paul. Soul Blade was the one before Soul Calibur. Right, I didn't realise that. So what one was on the Dreamcast? Was that the Soul Calibur, I think?
Yeah. So you had Soul Blade, which was like Highlander said, there was the one before Soul Calibur, and I had that on the PlayStation because I remember I was totally blown away with how good the full motion intro was on Soul Blade. Yeah. And I think Soul Calibur, it was obviously it was on the Dreamcast, I don't know if the PlayStation 2 got Soul Calibur or not.
Don't think so.
No, I don't remember at all.
I don't think so. And obviously, you were getting. So basically, at that point, home hardware had caught up with arcades because you could play Street Fighter. I mean, I think it was a bit of a game changer when the SNES Street Fighter came out.
Yeah,
that made people realise, holy shit, this SNES can now play what was virtually an arcade perfect. I think maybe a couple of frames or something was it missing?
Yeah, maybe some
was some
animated backgrounds, but apart from that, yeah, it was great. And then they did the version on the Mega Drive, which was the Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I think.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was pretty good as well.
So I suppose at that point, that's where it's like I said, people were. Why would you want to go to arcades? I mean, I'm assuming maybe people that lived in Blackpool who had their PlayStations, they probably still did go to the arcades. But
well, yeah,
like
I mean,
myself, I wasn't going to travel when I could virtually play the same game.
Well, no, if I lived here then yeah, I certainly. I mean, you've seen how close I live to the coast. You know, 10 minutes and I could be in an arcade, but there's bugger all in them now. I've got a main cabinet in my dining room, which really is, you know, further than Del would ever walk. But it is. You know, literally, I don't need to go. You know, you can say about emulating. Come on, Del. There's a comment there. Press the button.
Oh, right, is there really? Oh, yeah.
What's the name of the guy? Yeah, he's apparently Scottish, but he sounds like a fucking Englisher, really.
Oh, I was just thinking, what was the last arcade game that I played that I bought on a console? And I think it was Virtua Tennis 2, something like that.
I think that was the thing that I mean, Neil, never mind the bloody darts. Just concentrate on Delboy.
What is? There you go.
Well, go and move. I can't see what a minute. Who's? Oh, hang on. Is he going double? Hey, double 12. You get a 2 for 1 here, folks. Bloody hell.
Yeah, and then you get a copyright strike later.
I thought that was Panther then playing. Look.
Not manly enough. Right, I'll tell you another really good arcade port that was on the PlayStation. That was Bloody Raw. It was another 3D fighting game.
Animals,
but where you were like were-tigers and werewolves and were-rabbits and stuff like that. That was another really close arcade
Fighting Vipers as well was another kind of cage fighter one.
Yeah, there was a lot of fighting stuff in the 90s, wasn't there?
But the Dreamcast, I think it was Matt actually in the stream. I mean, the Dreamcast was the games that were coming out at that point. I remember going to Mallorca and I just bought a Dreamcast and I was playing Virtua Tennis and I went to Mallorca on holiday and it was like, why would I want to play this? I've got it. So at that point, the arcades had caught up. Sorry, the home hardware had caught up. So what do you think, Dale, made Capcom and Namco and all these companies just think, right, well, enough's enough? Do you think they weren't making enough money?
Possibly, and the money it cost to develop the machines. I mean, Sega's idea of the Dreamcast was they were developing a system a little bit like the multifunction machines. It was called the Naomi device. It was like a cartridge-based system, much like you're getting in the big consoles these days, you know, where the joysticks are all built in, you know. So because of that meant that they could port over a game onto a disc and it would play in the same type of hardware, because the Dreamcast was basically the Naomi cartridge. Capcom didn't have anything like that out, did they? So and the rest. So that was their way forward. And when the Dreamcast failed and they said, right, we're pulling out of the hardware, absolutely, totally, we're just pulling out, we're going to license all our cartridges out to everybody else. That's when there were only PlayStations and Xboxes, and you just don't see much development then of hardware in the arcades, is how I feel it went in the end.
Just when you're talking there, I thought I've had I was going to, I've kind of answered one question just when I'm thinking about it. Where are Capcom and Namco making their money now? If they're not making arcade games,
software.
I suppose for the PlayStation 5.
I mean, SNK is still milking. The King of Fighters series. I think number 15 is about to come out, and again, they've made all the female characters look like She-Hulks, and all the male characters like double Hulks, and it's like, you know, I can appreciate that they've moved forward graphically, but I preferred the 2D ones where they were like cartoons, and the girls look like girls and the boys look like boys. I mean, for years I played as Chun-Li whenever I played Street Fighter, because I don't care whether I'm playing a male or female character. So why do you need to make the women look like bloody great hulking? Well, they look like men almost.
Things that could crack a peanut or a walnut, I should say.
Yeah.
Evening, Brian. How you doing, buddy?
So what Stephen said here, he's planning to spend $5,000 on a Robotron, fixed or not. He wants an original machine. Now, see, I wanted to get an original machine, but I couldn't choose what machine to get. And then in the end, I built a main cabinet because I've got every machine then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a wee story. And I've mentioned this a few times. When I moved into my own house a couple of years ago, I thought, right, first thing I'm going to do is get an arcade machine. I'm going to get a proper arcade machine. I've had my wee bar top for quite a few years. I thought I'm going to get an original. So I thought, right, what am I going to get? Will I get a Berserk? Will I get a Robotron? Will I get a Galaxy? And that was going to be one of these ones. And I spoke to Tony Temple, and Tony's just restored loads of machines. What he doesn't know about arcade machines is they're worth knowing. And I says, what am I kind of looking at for an original machine? He says, well, I don't want to put you off, Alice. He says, but here's three things. He says, one, you need to have the ability to fix it. He says, because part of owning an original arcade machine, which was never designed to be played 40 years on, you need to be able to take the CRT TV out without killing yourself. You need to be able to rewire the wiring looms and all that sort of stuff. I went, well, that kind of rules now. He says, secondly, you're going to need about $2,000. He says, and thirdly, you're going to have buyer's remorse. Robotron, you're going to have it sitting in your kitchen thinking, fucking hell, I've not played that for 2 weeks. I've just spent $2,000 on it. He says, trust me, I've been there. He says, honestly, mate, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. Best thing you can do is get yourself a decent cabinet and stick a Raspberry Pi or something in it. He says, and that way you've got the best of all worlds, I think if money was no object, I mean, I'm completely with Stephen there. If money was no object and I had a fucking massive house, a big basement, then we would all want to have all the original cabinets.
Oh,
I would pay Tony and Archer and McLean and all these bloody guys to come in and just fix my cabs, just keep them running, but that's not going to happen. So I think a main cab's
it is. I mean, I'd want loads of room. I mean, I'd like to have I'd love to have an outrun, the full sit-down hydraulic outrun. But I haven't got that, so the best I've got is I've got it on main. I've got outrun Cannonball on my PC, but if I want on my main cabinet, I've got a steering wheel and pedal. I can just clip them on the front, and it's like having the stand-up outrun machine. And the steering wheel has got a force feedback motor on it, and I don't know how they've magicked it into main, but it works.
I mean, the other thing I think that happened, and I don't know quite whether this is true or not, I think everything went mechanical when things started to diminish on the arcade fronts. It all turned into those dance machines, and pinball machines are probably still going because those were going into the pubs as well. But they're harder to emulate, aren't they? You can't really do something like that on an Xbox. I mean, obviously they tried and they made those mats, but they were never the same type of thing. I think that's pretty much the arcades pulled out. They made those machines that you couldn't really emulate very well. Everything turned mechanical, and that's why we've got now arcades that are probably still out there, but they're all fruit machines or mechanical devices, stuff that you wouldn't do on an Xbox or a PlayStation. Or
I just want to say to Neil, that's not the steering wheel for Outrun behind us, mate. That's for my pirate ship emulator. So when I want to take to the high seas in my three-cornered hat and live it up.
All you really want is you want to have the water going. You want. Oh,
But I'm going to ask Panther a question. I'm going to ask Panther a question. So Outrun was what, 1985, 86, the original?
Yeah, 86.
And if the Dreamcast was 1999, 2000, when do you think the craze or we had the ability to buy arcade machines and bring them into our homes? Because that's 16 years, 15, 16 years between Outrun coming out as a machine that would cost thousands that you'd only have in an arcade, and us being able to now have the ability to buy an arcade machine and bring it into our home, you know, like an old Space Invader machine and whatever. We never thought we could do that, did we? Back in 1986, I'd love to have Outrun in my house, but it'll cost 25,000 or whatever. That's the price of a car or something.
Well, it depends on who you know, because the guy Sasamisa 1806, who I do the gameplay videos with on my channel,
yeah,
he had a Silverline arcade cabinet with a Philips CRT monitor in it, and him and his brother, when they had a flat together, they used to go to arcades and buy boards. You know, sometimes they'd spend a tenner, sometimes they'd spend like 80 quid. And he had, at one point, I think he had 12 arcade boards. So he had like Gradius 2, I think he had Slap Fight, a load of different shooters. I think he had Psychic 5, little Jellicoe platform game. And then opposite that, on the other side of the room, I don't know how much it cost him, but him and his brother, and I'm talking 1991, 92 here, they had a full-size, full art, everything, actual, real Dragon's Lair machine with a laser disc and everything in it. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much they spent on that. I know it was quite a bit. So the ability was there to have it in the home, you know, at any point. Yeah. But if you wanted to buy an entire cabinet, you know, with like we were saying about Outrun, then yeah, you are talking late 90s, because Outrun was popular for so many years, and it was still making money. I mean, if I see an Outrun machine now, it's like Outrun. And I don't care if it's a quid, I'll go and have a go on the arcade machine.
I suppose when you think about it, arcade machines were only designed to make money. Yeah, that was the whole purpose of them. Yeah, they were designed to be fun, but they were to be fun because they wanted people to spend money. So things like I don't know, what was it? I was going to say pinball tables. You know, I suppose it was kind of pinball tables. No, it wasn't pinball tables and pubs. But anyway, video games came along, and it was for people to put money in. Once a game stopped making money, the guy would say, like, you need to come and take this away. Nobody wants to play fucking Scramble. Get rid of it. And you think, well, what are we going to do this in? But when you think about it, it would have cost a lot of money to probably buy, I don't know what, say a Galaxian cabinet. I don't know what that would have cost back in the day. Say maybe £1,000. You were paying the money for the cabinet, but factored into that, I would imagine, I might be talking complete pish, was the manufacturer who was giving that cab. They were basically giving you a business. They were giving you something that you could make money. So it wasn't me just giving you a Galaxian cabinet. I was giving you the capacity to make maybe £500 a month. So when you think about it, £1,000 back in 1983, 1984 was a lot of money. That was probably about, I don't know, 3-4 months' wages for the average guy. It was just unfeasible. You couldn't afford it. Nowadays, if you've got £1,000, you know, £1,000 now is a lot less than it was in 1985. So technically, the prices have come down there, you know. So yeah, but I think I think there's always been people who've been collecting these machines. But for me personally, when I got like the C64 and I had the chance to get a not a C64, when I had the chance to get an Atari ST, I couldn't wait to offload the C64 and get this better computer. And then when I had the chance on Amiga, I just wanted to keep upgrading. I was not interested in arcade machines back then. I didn't want to play Space Invaders. I had a Commodore Amiga. I could play things like I had, you know, the Tutankhamun demo and the Bong demo. That knocked something like Space Invaders out the park. Nobody wanted to play Space Invaders, and it was only probably when the internet came along that suddenly there was a kind of renewed interest.
Well, I mean, there would have always been some people who wanted to play Space Invaders. I mean, you know, you look how old Pac-Man is, and then, you know, if you know John Stubbley and you see his Facebook page, you know, he posts a lot about Pac-Man, and to be as good as he is, you know, it's not like he stopped playing it for years and years and years, is it, really? I mean, how long ago was it he got his first perfect one?
About maybe 4 years ago. I don't know if you're ever watching this, John, let us know. I think maybe 4 years ago, something like that. I'm just looking, Matt's saying there's an Outrun arcade cabinet in YouTube. In YouTube? for, what do you mean on YouTube? For $6.99. I take it you mean eBay, Matt. Buy it for $6.99. Tempted.
Yeah, like where Stephen's saying there about the controls on the machines. If you've got the right controls, I mean the steering wheel I've got is one of the ones that's got a little gear shifter on the side, and it's got pedals and it's got force feedback. When I clip it onto the front of my X Arcade, honestly, it's like playing Action Outrun.
Not just anything with that. So to kind of move things forward, what was I going to say? Do you think? I mean, what after see when the PlayStation era came along, when games stopped kind of thing, and as Del said, it became Dance Revolution, it became light gun games and Guitar Hero games, wasn't it? And that was kind of it. And then I mean, now it's all about massive screens. Was there not some kind of Galaxian multiplayer game where you had like a sort of you had a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, one of these blaster things out of the Star Wars film, and you have like 4 players sitting in this huge screen, so it was just like bigger and better, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Like just kind of ramped things up a lot. I mean, them Dance Revolution machines, man, they're fucking massive, weren't they? I mean, especially if you've got like the 2-player one where they've linked 2 machines together. You've got them great big cabinets and then 2 great big floor things with all those chrome railings and that. Like you say, it was just bigger and better and bigger and better, and then it just seemed to die out.
I think these were kind of more aimed at the casual gamer, weren't they? I mean, the hardcore gamer, they had moved on to PC by that point. I mean, let's not forget PC gaming when, you know, the 3D effects. Evening, Colin. When the 3D effects or whatever it was came out, that was a game changer. Suddenly you could play games that you weren't stuck playing VGA graphics, whatever it was. But yeah, so I think the actual arcades, that's it. They just became money grabbers, eh?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's well, everything's like crane machines now. But I watched a video ages ago. It really made me laugh. It was I can't remember who was filming it, but someone was filming this Japanese guy trying to get an iPhone or something out of a machine, and he was trying to pick it up, and in the end he walked away and he comes back and you see him kind of thinking, and he puts his money in and he sends the crane right up to the very back, comes across and knocks this stack over and gets about 10 out at once. They all fell down his chute. That's a brilliant video, that is.
So I remember being down at, I can't remember where it was. It was one of these kind of Butlins holiday camps, whatever it was, whole seasons with my ex and my daughter Ava. And Ava would be about, I don't know, 5 at the time. And there was one of these crane grabbers, but it was like a guaranteed one. You guaranteed to get something. And I think we were there for about a fucking hour trying to get. It's like, come on! And they kept picking up and dropping it. It's like, fucking just give us something. And the thing is, the money that you spend on it, the thing you get is absolute shit.
I'll tell you what, the crane machines, there is not a single person that could beat my nan. May she rest in peace. I'll tell you what, in the 80s, when we used to go to Clacton a lot, and all the arcades down there.
Was it called?
Yeah, all the arcades down the main road there. Outside, there's loads of crane machines, and my nan would go along. She'd put like 10p in, and if she had to go on 10 machines, she'd be guaranteed to have 5 like stuffed toys or whatever. And my mum and dad had one of the fixed caravans down that end of the world, and one of the shelves round the top must have had about 50 of these little fluffy toys that my nan had got out of the machines over the years. My nan, bless her, she passed away in 2003. But when my mum sold her caravan, she kept every single one of these toys that my nan won that my kids didn't have when they were babies. So it's brilliant. So yeah, my nan definitely got her money's worth out of it.
Yeah. My nan was only interested in telly bingo. That's all she wanted to go on. You know that all those numbers and just slot them across. You know.
Yes. Thing is, I've watched there's quite a lot of videos on YouTube, and it just basically tells you how completely and utterly fixed all these things are. You know, even from like throwing a ball, knocking cans over, the cans are weighted, they're stuck down.
Oh, the odds and do you remember the odds and evens where you had to, they gave you a raffle ticket that was folded up and you opened it up, and if you'd got an even number, they, all of that sort of stuff. They had those at fairs a lot. Hooker duck and everything else.
Sorry, Del, to interrupt you. I just want to pull up what Stephen's saying now. Yeah, he's saying, could you play Missile Command under today's simulator on computers better than the original? Same on Robotron. I think not. Well, my main cabinet has got a trackball on it, and Al was actually playing Missile Command last night, and the only problem was I haven't set the speed of the cursor up properly within MAME. And I've also got, it's a 2-player cabinet, so I've got 2 sticks. And so, yeah, you can play Robotron. And not only that, I've got a bloody great sub in the bottom of it, so it thumps like an arcade machine as well. So it can be done.
Everything's a bit messy, but I think you're talking about that, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's arcade.
One of them.
The trackball.
Yeah, and you can play trackball games and twin stick games, perfectly well now. All right, I don't know how much you paid for yours, Del. When I bought mine about 8 years ago, it cost me 220 quid. So you've got to spend the money on it.
Oh, aye.
But it can be done with emulators.
Yeah, mine was I think it was £129. I think it was about 6 years ago.
Yeah,
7, maybe 6, 7, maybe even longer than that, actually.
Well, the reason mine cost so much is because when I wanted to buy one, there weren't any in this country, and I had to order it from X Arcade themselves.
Yeah, that's where I got mine from. It was one of these special deals. They were starting to make dedicated arcade machines, but they were still selling these X arcades, which were double stick or single stick or stick with a trackball or whatever, different combinations. And it came down to a price where I went, oh, that's okay, I'll buy that. And it came from the States. It came in a great big massive cardboard box with X Arcade written all over it, and then inside there was the actual box, you know what I mean, with all the
Well, the cabinet I bought a flat pack one from one of the arcade world type shops. Can't remember which one it was now. I think it might have been Ultimate Arcade or something they were called. And I bought the one for the X Arcade tank stick, and I thought, well, I can use like screws and stuff to fit this one in, because I got a just a normal twin stick one off of eBay.
Yeah,
and it weren't the right size, and at that time I had the money, and it was like, well, this doesn't fit properly. And when I watched something on YouTube, and someone had the same cabinet that I got, and they got the tank stick, and it lines up perfectly. It's like, right, well, time to spend more money. And now my original twin stick one's wrapped up in cling film in the garage, and it's just a spares box because I don't need it. I like having the tank stick.
Yeah.
Got to say, I'm quite impressed with the trackball. The trackball is reassuringly heavy. It's quite weighty.
Yeah, it really is quite nice. I was really impressed when I first got it. I went, wow, now this is where I can start.
Yeah.
Putting a PC to the right of it and putting MAME on this now, and I'm going to start configuring it. And then X Arcade started sending me stuff like, oh, you can get an adapter that will plug this into your PlayStation and all this sort of stuff, and you can play as an arcade. They gave you some games that you could play on your PC with this stick. I'm just trying to think of how many years ago it was, but I was very impressed with them. And I just went, that's quality. It's got bumpers even, buttons on the left and right hand side that you could even turn that into you could do that as the flippers on a pinball. It's
really quite nice. I've got one of the visual pinballs on the arcade machine, so I have done that. I just want to say, yoo-hoo! Back to Trev. Hello, Trev. You all right, mate?
How you doing, buddy? But nah, I think.
Oh, yoo-hoo, yeah.
I know in the sort of early days of emulation, you were playing. I don't know. You were playing whatever. Playing. I don't know. R-Type with a gamepad. It didn't feel the same. But now technology is there. You can get some wonderful arcade sticks. I mean, my mate Mike Hansen puts out some of the best arcade sticks ever. I mean, John Studley, who we've already kind of mentioned, John's the Pac-Man. He's probably he's in the top 3 Pac-Man players ever. He's absolutely phenomenal. And it was John that recommended I speak to Mike, because when John was wanting to practice for the Perfect Pac-Man, he wanted to do it live, because John always likes to do these things live because he feels it's got more credence rather than doing it on a, you know, in your house, recording it on a videotape, whatever. So John spoke to Mike, and Mike made him a Pac-Man controller, and he says Pac-Man is Pac-Man out of any sort of game. It's just the joystick. It's got to be absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And he says it was. So the minute I knew that, I was like, "Hi, Mike. John's recommended you. Would you like to make me an arcade stick?" And I mean, he's very kindly given me quite a few, and they're phenomenal. So I would disagree with Stephen there. I do agree with yourself. I think we've now got the ability with the proper controls. Yeah, it'll never beat standing in an arcade. One thing I do miss is the standing playing a game. You were doing it last night. I was sitting playing bloody Berserk, and you're standing, you're looking over my shoulder, and having that sort of, you know, I mean, I could never claim to have that. But you know, guys like Tony Temple, you know, he was going down to Blackpool as a 12-year-old, and he was putting like 2 million in bloody Missile Command, and people were like, and you were a hero, you were an absolute god, you know.
Yeah, I will say though, he was shit at Berserk, and he said I had the fast bullets harder version on. So instant excuse.
This sounds about right. Yeah.
Well, I remember, Trev is part of Icon 64, and they've got a new game coming out that's under development called Terrestrial, and I shared it around the Commodore groups the other day, and if you get a chance to look on YouTube, I think Trev, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's put it on his actual YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
The game called Terrestrial is like the level he's shown is like a scrolling tank level with like parallax scrolling and that. It looks like it is going to be fucking mint. And anyone that's got a C64 or the C64 or just uses Vice, this looks like it's going to be awesome. Have you seen that?
Listen, Trevor, by all means, go and stick the URL in the comments section. Absolutely. What the hell have we got? Look. Oh, right, yeah, nice. What the hell?
There's no sound.
Look at the parallax scrolling in that.
Yeah, there's no
Is
sound.
that Trevor's programming that? Yeah.
Well, Trev's part of. Trev, are you completely Icon 64 in it? You and a few others.
Can we not show that on the screen? Can you not hold up to the camera?
I can try.
Go.
I'll try and make it full screen first, shall I? I don't know how well that's going to come across on the.
You got a bit of light.
Oh no, I can see it. little white tank going over a purple bridge at the moment. Oh, yeah, look at that!
The last video that I shared, they've just got destructible terrain in it and that.
Yeah. See, look, even the demo's better than Alan. Look, get over everything. Look,
it's him and 3 coders, and I'll tell you what, Icon 64 put out some of the. I mean, there's loads of people that make great 64 games, you know, like Protovision and stuff like that. But Icon 64 are up the top of the tree. You know, they put some really good stuff out.
I must admit that looked really, really nice. It's sort of, I mean, it looked like a sideways scrolling tab. But I mean, Alan likes to play his raid over Moscow, doesn't he? You know and you got that little ship, haven't you, flying across the sideways scrolling thing? You know, it looked a little bit. It looked like a 15 years later version of that. You know what I mean?
There you go. Look, Trev said, think raid over Moscow and Beachhead. So
yeah, because Beachhead had a level like that as well, didn't it, with the tank?
Yeah,
nice. If there's anyone wants to ask any questions, fire away. So kind of getting back on topic. I mean, obviously we've kind of agreed that the death knell of the arcades largely, I mean, apart from the casual gamer going on, was when sort of the 32-bit machines came along. And I don't think it's ever recovered. Do you actually think that arcades, the old classic machines, could ever become a thing again? Do you think we'll ever see that?
Well, I mean, you know, we have got the arcade clubs, and there are a few arcades dotted around. I mean, there's quite a lot of the barcades in the States. So, you know, obviously anyone in America that's watching, you know, tell us if you've been to any. But yeah, I mean, the one that was in town here was doing really, really well. But they had some issues with the council, and then like the whole COVID thing happened, so they couldn't have people in, and they ended up having to close down and like sell off a load of their machines. And they had 50 or so machines. They had a couple of the 50-in-1 boards in there, so you could choose what game you wanted to play. They had a few pins, and then they had another floor that had like everything from the NES up to it would have been a PlayStation 4 at the time. So they had loads of stuff there, and I think because it was local and a lot of locals went in there, there was like one point where someone might have made off with a PS4 controller, and there was a whole thing on a local Facebook group, and they went and took it back again. So, you know, it was a well thought of place, and they had a bar, and they had like simple food like burgers and nuggets and chips and what have you. But you know, it was a real shame when they had to say, look, we're going to have to, you know, close the doors, and they were literally selling cabinets off. But
yeah.
Well, I haven't got the money for a cabinet. I've got nowhere to put it, and if I turned up the front door of a Space Invaders cabinet, I think my missus would probably go spastic. And that would be the end of that.
I mean, I've been lucky enough. I've been to a lot of the play events. I've been to Nerg, Newcastle, Northeast Retro Gaming. I've been to Arcade Club a few times, and it's evident there is definitely an interest in people want to play these games again. It would be interesting if, I don't know, a sports centre or a local chippy or something actually brought out one of these games and put it into their, or a pub, if they put a Defender cabinet into a pub just to see if it would actually generate money. Do you think people would play them?
I think they would, because I mean, I go to like the leisure centre in the next town to me, and they've got like swimming pools and gyms and all that there. And in the foyer bit, if you can ignore all the tape on the floor for the one-way systems for the world's current thing, where there was a good space for arcade machines, they're like selling like swimming goggles and like swimming hats and you know like drinks bottles and stuff like that. And they could, it's blocking off another section. Yeah. I reckon they'd make just as much, if not more, money if they had a line of 6 classic arcade machines in there.
Yeah,
I think we've actually. I mean, I don't know, when the Mega Drive came out and the SNES, I don't think people would want to play Defender because it was too soon after it. But we've now reached a point where computers and consoles are so far in advance of like a Galaxy machine. You know, people don't play Space Invaders at home. They want to play Call of Duty. They want to play these interactive films. And because of that, I think people would gladly go back. If they're in the pub, they go, fucking hell, there's a bloody Pac-Man machine. You remember that? You got 20 pence. And I think people would do it because I think it would make money. I really, really do.
Yeah, Neil's saying there that he's actually seen a main cab put in a town centre pub and it was very popular.
Yeah.
It would be. The only trouble you've got there is licensing and copyright, because it is a grey area, as you know. And if you start charging money for it, you know, it's all right as long as you don't get caught. But if you do get caught, there's probably a lot of fines. If you've got 1,000 games on there, that's 1,000 tons of litigation.
Yeah, but even if you were to think about having the original hardware, the maintenance would come into effect as well, wouldn't they? So say you got in touch with the people that...
Let's say good night to Stephen. Cheers, Stephen.
Yeah, hello, mate.
Hi, Stephen. So I was just thinking that, say you got even the people that distribute fruit machines to say, right, look, there's a couple of arcade machines that we're going to start distributing as well. We've done a deal. We've got the ROMs. We've built a cab. We're going to put them out of there. If you didn't do that and you bought a load of arcade machines from all of the fairs and fates and so forth that are around the country, when they go wrong, are they going to have the mechanics to actually fix those things? Because if they do get used a little bit, then of course, you know, the fixing of them is a little bit more different than a fruit machine. And people that
I suppose if you was to say for example, it was a leisure centre or a swimming pool or somewhere fairly close to Bury or Leeds or Liverpool, or you know, because they seem to be more up north, the arcades now.
Yeah.
If you was to like rent the machines from one of these places and like do a percentage like the cash, earnings scheme on it, then the people that own the machines could be in charge of the maintenance. Now, I mentioned the channel I used to watch, John's Arcade. He's a guy. He's in New England somewhere in the States, and he's got like a basement arcade, and he's good at fixing stuff. He can do like body work as well as electronics.
Yeah.
Him and a mate of his, they put something like 20 or 30 machines into a bar that was near them, let it run, and the bar was taking so much of the earnings, they were taking so much, but they were on call to fix the machine. So, like, if the Pac-Man machine went down, then John or his mate would tootle along in there, pull it out, go in the back, sort out what was wrong with it, and get it up and running again. So if they had a deal like that, then, I don't see why it wouldn't work. They'd only have to try it for a few months, and there's a lot of people that are in our age group, the around sort of 50, that grew up in the 80s, that they'd see one and be like, oh, I fancy that. And there's a lot of people in our age group that do go to gyms and do go to swimming pools and that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was in a shopping centre with Lee. I think it was last year. It might have just been before lockdown. And we're walking through this bloody shopping centre, and I spotted it must have been a sort of meme. It was one of these multiple choice games, and I can't know what the hell. I think a quick game of Phoenix. Now I can play Phoenix on a plethora of handhelds. I've got it in my arcade cabinet, but just being able to play Phoenix, being able to play it in an arcade in the public was brilliant. And as I was playing, I could see people looking across and all that. It's brilliant.
I've just noticed Holly's just come on. The Holmeister, as she's known now, saying, "Where was my invite? What you want to come on? You got your webcam ready, Holly? Where was my invite?
I'll tell you what.
I'll send you a link, girl.
Yeah,
because they bound sure to knock me off and put Holly there. And I'll tell you what, the audience will probably go up by about 30 or 40 extra.
Well,
good evening, Holly.
I don't like to argue with you, Del, so I'll have to agree, mate.
Yeah.
Even though we spoke to her about bloody 20 minutes ago, but anyway.
Yeah.
But actually, a wee exclusive. You probably know that Holly's making a game. Now, Holly doesn't live too far away from where Panther lives, so we're actually having a development meeting.
A development meeting, yeah. Development meeting with ice cream, hopefully, if the sun's out.
I think I think they promised her a bag of chips.
A bag of chips and an ice cream.
Can I honestly say, now this, if anyone from the Atlantic Fish Bar or something?
The Atlantic Bay Fish Bar.
I can categorically state here and now, I've been on this earth for 53 years. I can honestly say it was the best bag of chips I have ever tasted. Seriously,
that's the Atlantic Bay Bar or Fish Bar in Westwood Ho.
It's a bit of sod because I've got 600 miles to travel if I want to get a bag of chips.
It'd be a bit cold when you get home, wouldn't they?
Guess what I'm going to be sending in pictures of for the next 6 months.
You can get it right up there.
And they didn't have chippy sauce, and he liked them. Bloody hell!
No, it was just salt. I think it was. Yeah, delicious. Really, really nice. What are we talking about? But I think. I mean, how? Obviously, the whole licensing thing. I mean, MAME is a free kind of thing. Do you think it would be possible for like a pub to buy one of these arcade cabinets off eBay, stick a Raspberry Pi in it, and then phone up Namco and say, look, Mr. Namco, can I run Galaxian on this, and I'll give you 30% of the takings? Or do you think that's the whole MAME and all that? That would be just a licensing nightmare. It's never going to happen, is it? But it's a shame because you could quite easily have 100 MAME machines and just have them running 100 different machines. Because a lot of these machines, you'll never, ever, ever, ever see 99% of them ever again.
Well, no, I mean a lot of the Pac-Man machines were converted to Myth Pac-Man. A lot of the Star Wars machines were converted to Empire Strikes Back, and although a lot have been saved and restored back to what they were, there would have been a lot more had they have not done that. And then you've got people smashing them up on YouTube channels. I've seen a bloke there. He bought a fully working Pac-Man machine, and then smashed it up just because he could, which is like I think that's
bloody idiot. Yeah.
Well, that was the first time I left a swear word in the comments of someone. I'm not going to say what it was, but it ended in NT, and I think that was the first time. I know I'm not going. No, it wasn't that. It was the first time I left a thumb down on YouTube. So I don't normally bother if I don't like something. I don't even interact with it. He actually gave that a thumb down, and I seem to remember at the time it had something like 10,000 thumbs down and about 10 thumbs up. So obviously it upset a lot of people because no one likes to see things like that being smashed up.
Stupid, isn't it?
You know, I'm not into cars particularly, but if I was given a video of someone smashing up a Mark 1 Capri, I'd be like, why? Why would you do that?
For views. That's
for views, that's it.
Shock. That was supposed to be shock value, and it's just U-turned, wasn't it? So
yeah, it's on. I don't know what name the channel is. It's on YouTube. It was a couple of years ago now, and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Because I look at a lot of arcade stuff. These things come up down the side in YouTube when I'm watching it, and you know I've spent all this time. I watched John's Arcade totally refurbish a Pac-Man machine, and he went so far as when he was painting it, he got a load of protective gel and he spent hours painting over all the little ghosts and the Pac-Man and the writing and that. Then he sprayed the cab up, and then he was able to peel all the gel off and save all of the art. And then in another video, there's someone like, "Oh, look what we can do, smash!"
Yeah.
Bollocks.
Is Ollie coming on then, or what?
No pressure. What's Holly saying anyway? I tried running Main Machine on a. Why am I looking down there? I can look up there on the big telly. I tried running Main Machine on an 80s pub night for charity. Even then, it was a nightmare. You need to own the original ROMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that.
The closest you're going to get to what you're saying is probably those people that are making those 3/4 machines and turning those cases into actual machine collection devices, and because those have got 3 or 4 or 5 different games in them, a bit like the SNK early, those arcade machines and the Nintendo 10 machines and all of that sort of stuff. You could probably get the pattern up for those and probably get the ROMs for those and then have a business. But I don't think you'll ever see a MAME arcade cabinet in a pub. Or
if you had the money, you could get a couple of the 4 or 6 Neo Geo ones. I mean, all right, it cost you a bit to buy the cartridges to fill them, but if you had, say you've got four lots of 4, so you'd have 16 games over 4 cabinets.
Yeah.
And you can chop and change them as a user. You don't need to be the operator to change them. You can select which of the 4.
Oh yeah.
So that would be a way you could fit more games into less space and be legal about it.
Yeah, very true.
It's interesting. Just thinking there about back in the day when the Neo Geo came out. I mean, I remember seeing it featured in, I think it was computer and video games, and the Neo. I was earning £12 a week, and the Neo Geo to buy it was like £600 or something. And
Holly's blown us out. She's been on the sauce.
Good stuff.
That's all right, Ollie. We'll see you tomorrow.
But I mean, the games themselves in the Neo Geo were like something like £300 or £200.
Yeah, they're not.
But you were getting the arcade. You were actually getting arcade. I mean, I couldn't even imagine who could have afforded that. I mean, it was phenomenal money. It was for the rich.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously people that would. I mean, but if you get a decent, one of the decent games like one of the Metal Slugs, to master that, you're talking a lot of gameplay to be able to memorise and sort that out. So
yeah,
if you pay say £250 for one of them, for us it doesn't seem worth it. But if you are that invested in arcade games and you can afford it, I mean, £250 for a game that's going to last you plenty of time. I don't know. I mean, it's like you like Berserk. I mean, if you had a Berserk machine, I mean, how often would you play it? Would you play it to death, or would you play it here and there? That's. It's
hard to say.
Isn't it? Yeah. Until you've got one, it's hard to say. Like having the MAME cabinet, I can, I've got every MAME game on there, and I can go and play whatever I want. But as you saw last night, I've got a list of about 1,400 games, and that's all the ones when I first set it up. I made a
Favourites you knew.
Favourites
folder, and I just went down the list, and I thought, yeah, that looks good. Because I like vertical shoot 'em up, so there's loads of that in the list. And I was just going through them all, and I made a list. And then as I've learnt more, like I didn't really know what Truxton was, and my mate Jeff come round and he said, "Oh, you should have a look at Truxton if you want a hard shoot 'em up." And I don't want a hard shoot 'em up. He goes, "It is hard," and he played a bit. And it's like, yeah, well, add that to the list, and it's kind of grown. It was probably about 1,200 when I first done it, and it's grown as I've seen more games. Be it on like Al done a load of videos. Oh, got to be about 4 or 5 years ago now, where you was doing arcade shoot 'em ups. You did A to Z.
I remember that.
So there was quite a few that Al showed that I hadn't seen before, that I didn't have screenshots for, that got added as time went on. But yeah, you're right. I don't think you'd ever see a main machine in a club like that, because there's too much legal chicanery to get through.
Yeah,
probably is. I mean, I suppose when you think about the arcade scene back in the day, yeah, it was a completely new technology, and I can't really vouch for it because I wasn't really about arcades, but I've got a lot of friends that grew up in London and they were constantly playing even the mad moments. They were playing the arcades, and there was a kind of culture. It was a kind of underground kind of culture where kids could go and socialise and ultimately they could become like gaming gods, because the guys that could actually play these games, you were a hero, you know what I mean? And it's all about the high score, and that's what I've always maintained. Like, there's not really been a game that's come out probably in the last 20 years that I would say, if I completed it, and I have completed some games before you start, Mr. Delboy, cheeky stuff. You're not going to. If I completed Call of Duty, I'm not going to phone you and say, "What game I completed? What Call of Duty? Like, not very good." Whereas if I put 2 million in Robotron, I would be putting a picture of that onto Facebook, on the Mamemeister Facebook page, and people would be like, "Fucking hell, that's brilliant! It's a badge of honour getting a good score."
That's it. It's like that prehistoric Isle in 1930 video I put up the other week. You know, I think I was at work and Jeff phoned me up and said, "I've done it." I managed to do it after like 20 hours of practice. But yeah, he didn't phone me up and tell me he'd completed The Last of Us when he completed that on the PlayStation 4, because it's not quite the same. What are you looking for, Trev? Tiny Arcades by Super Impulse.
You know what? There's so many of these tiny arcades. I've got I bought 4 about 3 months ago. I was always going to do a video of them, and they look the part. What is it? Kung Fu Master, Dig Dug, Dragon Ninja, and some other one. And they're perfectly scaled. They're only about beyond size. They're really nice looking, but it's the NES version that's running on it, which is a bit disappointing. What's your thoughts, Del? You kind of touched on it.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry, right. Before we move on.
They sell them on Amazon, Trev. I don't know if the prices are inflated, but it looks like they sell them on Amazon. Robotshop.co.uk is another one that does it. Mankind. So there is a few places that sell them in the UK.
Is that the ones that...
That's the tiny ones, isn't it?
Oh, wait. The absolutely miniature ones with that size.
Yeah, the Super Impulse tiny ones.
I've got. They're like on key rings.
Yeah,
I've got 2 of them. You know what? The problem with these is they look awesome, but they're novelty, and that's the problem with all these things. I mean, you get the what was it? The sort of the 3/4 size ones, Del. They're about like
the 1-ups.
Is it 1-ups?
1-ups, yeah.
Aye. I could understand that's probably playable, but see these wee tiny ones, they're pointless. They're nothing more than a gimmick. You're never ever going to sit and play that.
What did they bring out? They brought that little Master System out, didn't they? Not a Master System. It was a Game Gear or something, wasn't it? It's got like a half-inch screen or something, and it basically is a keyring. But they even brought out a magnifier for it, where it clips over the screen so that you could. And I'm going. You're having a laugh now, because what I thought was just going to be just for a keyring type thing, you're now saying, yeah, play on this Sonic on a half inch. No, I'm sorry, but even you've
Just-
ruled me out now.
Just going off topic slightly, did any of you guys have an original Game Boy?
No.
No. What about you?
I
Did you have one there
had a Game Boy.
with Tetris? Remember, you got all the add-ons. You could end up with
Yeah, they had a webcam, didn't they? They had a camera that went on the top.
and then you had the big massive you had all these third-party add-ons. You had this huge big magnifier which added about 2 kilograms of weight. Then you had the bolt-on speakers. I mean, I think it was Stuart Ashens did a video, and he had all the gizmos attached to this thing, and you needed like a bloody crane to hold the thing. It was
Yeah, it was
Right.
a bit stupid.
Trev, seeing as I am friends with you on Facebook, I have just sent you a link to the robot shop. There's about 8 or 9 of the mini cabinets on that page I've sent you to. You'd have to scroll up and down, mate. But that's the only one I can see.
Yeah,
So-
you're easy to find, Trev, on his friends list because he's got about 3. So basically, it wasn't a big list.
That's 3 more than you prick, isn't it?
Tell. He's got 2 unsubbed and friended him about half an hour ago, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah. Guess who's in a tent in the back garden tonight?
yeah.
No worries, Trev.
But yeah, I don't know. Arcades, yeah. Do you think we'll ever see? Do you think we'll ever get technology that's going to suddenly make people want to go back to them again? Is that boat sailed? Do you think?
I was thinking a little bit about that because basically, as soon as you started mentioning about arcades and stuff, I started to think about things that have come and gone, like internet cafes. You don't see too many internet cafes around. They were a big thing, then they're gone. There was all sorts of little clubs where you could play Warcraft and Starcraft and all of those sort of things, and those went into sort of like Warhammer type game shop type things, and then you don't see them at all again anymore. And really, the places that we see these arcade machines now are pretty much arcade clubs, museums. And I was thinking the driving force that would make you want to go to something that we used to have as an arcade, you'd have to have a company that would have the balls to come up with a gimmick or something that would make it becomes such a fad. It's a communal system that would make everybody go. Do you see what I mean?
I thought they were starting to do that with virtual reality stuff, using Google Glass and Oculuses and stuff like that. I mean, all right, I do, we've had the discussion before. I do think it's quite faddy for me. But if you could go to these places and have the actual room to walk around and not be tethered to a computer in a living room, and actually be able have like a 10 by 10 meter room where you've got room to walk around without knocking, your wife's best.
If you could make something up a little bit like Laser Quest with VR goggles on, a big environment like with a maze type structure and all the fog and stuff, and you had a lightweight or very futuristic version of the VR as it is now, which augments things into an environment, and you could make it safe, then that would take off. Because Laser Quest, I mean, who would have thought going around with a jacket on and a laser gun that basically when you shoot it vibrates and you go away with you being shot dead 36 times, but you killed 86 people, so you're the winner. I mean, if you could make that popular, which they did, then who's to say that VR couldn't be used in that way? I'll
tell you what, Del. I used to go to Quasar, it was called. With a load of lads. We used to meet at a pub and go and play Quasar. And I'll be honest, I wasn't that good at it. And there was a lot of people that used to cheat and cover their senses, like their sensors up so you couldn't hit them. But there was one game that really made me feel good. Just once we was playing. And I was having a brilliant game. I never used to cheat because that's pointless. And I was managing to shoot everything. And I jumped around the corner out of the fog on this teenager. And this teenager looked at me and went, "Fuck, it's Luke Skywalker." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Because I just kept shooting. It's the same kid. He kept jumping out at me and shooting him. But other than that, I was rubbish. And that was the only game I ever won. It was like I'd sort of like managed to hit sort of like 100 odd people. And I'd been it once or twice, but other than that, I was genuinely shit at it.
But I always thought that Laser Quest and Quasar would die within 6 months, but it never did. But just like you, I knew too many people that would fight. They'd go a couple of weeks, then they'd know there was an area where they could be in the corner of a room, covering their back up, crouch down, covering their front with their guns like that. And as soon as somebody came around, you just shot them, and they just kept going around. And they went away going, "Yay! I killed 210 people. I got hit once." And you just go, "Yeah, well." I had a bit of an exercise route and I was running around. I didn't stay in the corner like you did and just pick people off.
I used to drink with a guy called Paul. I won't give his surname out, and he was about 5 or 6 years older than me, and he was a lovely bloke. We went to this Quasar thing, and there was this kid like covering his sensors up. Yeah. And I had to drag Paul because basically Paul walked towards him. He turned the rifle the other way around and he was going to butt punch him in the face. He's like, "Paul, just stop with it. Don't do it." He's like, "Come on, let's go and shoot someone else." Yeah, he really got the ump with it. So it was, yeah.
Well, I fell out of love with paintball. So that's when we went to Quasar, but that was because we went to a corporate event as a paintball team, for our, as a team bonding thing, and we'd worked out that we were going to be playing against another corporate company. Well, they pulled out, and it happened to be that the Army Air Force Day were there on the day, so they filled in, and it was sort of like, oh yeah, okay. And of course, to them, it was like target practice.
Yeah, and then they filled you lot in.
Yeah, basically, it was like, oh, paint by numbers for them. And I just went, I am not going to that again, because I got hit and I got bruised. I mean, they had, because if it's an Army Air Force, like training thing that we're filling in, they didn't have to pay a penny for the guns and the bullet, the paint and all of that sort of stuff. We had to pay for the event, so you had about 50 or 500 rounds or whatever it was that you did.
I did paintball once. It was on some guy's birthday, and I've got to say it wasn't my cup of tea.
No,
wasn't a cup of tea. But my mate was right into it, and he said that they used to have something like there was one guy who was like a professional paintball, and he used to dress up as Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator. That would just absolutely fucking terrify me. Game or not, fuck that.
That was funny.
Just looking at Holly's comment, when it comes to home MAME cabs, I've always wanted to create an active joystick button panel so it reconfigures to each game and gives you the correct button layout joystick. Yeah, but that's always, I mean, I know Stephen's left the stream now, but that's always the downside of a MAME cab. It can't.
Well, you can set the buttons up per game. I mean, I've got it. I've gone through as I've played the games. I've gone through and I've set up the Neo Geo game, so it uses the first 4 buttons, A, B, C, D. And, I've gone through the Street Fighter games and made sure, the light, medium, heavy punches and kicks are in the right lines. So for that part, you can do it. But, yeah, if you want steering wheels and then you want spinners and you want trackballs, I mean, you need some sort of rotating.
Yeah. I mean, there's not many games, I'm maybe talking shite, there's not many arcade games that had a sort of a bespoke control system. I think probably the one that jumps out at me, and I'm lucky enough to have one, is the Defender cab that I bought of Paul Spriggs.
Yeah.
It's got the Defender layout, which is perfect, and you can also use it for playing any other game.
Well, yeah, I mean, Major Havoc had like the roller rather than a trackball, and then you've got Ikari Warriors and that, and the ones that have got the spinning sticks on. So.
How do I remove all these? Look at that. Have I got to go back up?
You have to go back up.
No, bollocks. How do I do that? I don't know. I think we're stuck with Holly's comment.
Well, click on someone else's and then click it off again.
That's a good. There we go. There's evening, Paul. Oh.
Weren't the cocktail tables absolutely lovely? I remember those with the machines with the controls at either end, and they could turn them around. They were in sort of like nightclubs, and when you were in the seating area where you wanted to go away from the dance floor, I used to see those.
I'll just say what Trev's just said to Paul, but yeah, that's they are. Dell's right. They are absolutely works of art. I wouldn't have anywhere to put one, but yeah, they're lovely, especially when they if someone's done it, say it looks brand new again, with all the wood grain and the shiny glass and everything.
Yeah.
They are beautiful.
So it was always smoked black glass, wasn't it? That was over the top. It looked like a bar table, you know.
I had my very first arcade cabinet was a cocktail cabinet built by Chris Wilkins. Actually, I actually drove down. I didn't realise. I thought I'd never been down this far. I actually drove down to Frome to pick it up for Chris Wilkins.
All right.
So did you play many of these games, Alan? Because I mean, you're shit. So when you're buying all these cocktail cabinets and all this, or did you actually sit down and play on one, or what?
Sorry, Dale, you're new. I was trying to read your lips. You're saying something about how do I master games the way I do. You know, I'm an absolute phenomenal gamer. Just practice, mate. Practice. Put the main cabinet. Just practice. Anyway, right, but moving swiftly on. Paul Morrison, yeah, my missus said she'd be very open to having a main cocktail cabinet. Aye, yeah, I mean that's definitely that's the way forward. So if you're kind of struggling for space, you could.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You know, if she's open to it, mate, she's a keeper. I mean, my main cabinet was originally when we lived in our last house. I didn't have much room, and I was allowed to have it in the corner of the front room, the actual like sitting room, living room, where the telly and the sofas and everything was. So, you know, you look behind my main sofa, and there's a main cabinet there. And when I had that one, it had the rotating screen in it as well for vertical and horizontal games. So, yeah, I was very lucky. I know how lucky I am. Let's put it that way.
So I'm just looking at Holly's comment. Wood grain LGR wet dreams.
Lazy game room in it, I think, the channel. I'm assuming it's lazy game room and she's not talking about herself. I don't know, really. I think we need a bit more explanation on that one, Mamemeister.
She did say she's been on the sauce, didn't she?
Yeah.
She's going to slap me tomorrow, isn't she? I'm going to get a slap tomorrow.
Moving on from, I think we've kind of talked about arcades to death. Dale, I take it you've probably seen in the news that game Mario 64, how much it sold for.
Oh, 1.5 million.
How is that even possible for a game?
Hang on, shit.
Oh, sorry.
Holly's just said correct. Now, is that correct? Lazy game room. Correct something else, or correct I'm going to get a slap, or all three. Sorry,
just go. Whenever somebody says that, just go with all three, because it just ends the conversation there, doesn't it? Really? Just go with all three.
Yeah, sorry, Dale, you were talking about Mario 64.
No, I was answering your question. Yeah, the one that went for 1.5 million. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, when you consider it, I mean, what the hell made that 1.5 million? I mean, Mario 64, very, very popular. It came with the machine. It was released a couple of times. It's everywhere. And here is one that's never been unopened.
I mean,
I don't know anything about how special it is.
Well, from what I gather, I mean, I was listening to I can't remember what the hell I was listening. I was watching something on YouTube, and they were saying that there's some authority who basically rates how good a game is.
Yeah.
Condition, and they said that was a 9.86 or something.
It's just like comics and trading cards. They basically rank things on.
Brand new, and they said because it was such an iconic game, that is why it sold for that amount. But then they said that that was 9.86 sold for 1.3 million or 1.5 million. They also said that there was one that went for 9.8 and it sold for 60,000. There's 60,000 is a fraction of 1.5 million. I just can't get my head around.
I'll tell you what, I wish someone like Ashens had bought it and then just opened it up on his channel.
I saw the news of that particular this particular selling about a week ago, but I did see it as well again this morning on another channel, an RMC channel, and he was talking that the game before that went to sell was a Zelda, and it was 700,000 or something, and they were both talking to each other as if well, I can understand a game paying for 100 quid, an old game, it's the nostalgia aspect of it. And that's where I was going, yeah, this 1.5 million, there'd have to be some printing mistake on it or something to make this unique. And I just don't get it. I really don't, because I mean, I do understand how comic grading is done, how trading card grading is done, but a sealed Nintendo 64 is rare. How do you know it's rare? How do you know there isn't a warehouse full of them?
I would understand.
Sealed.
I wouldn't understand that money, because that's just ridiculous. I would understand if it was an extremely rare game and it had never been opened. Then you would say, well, that's like, you're never ever going to see that ever again. But the fact is, it's just, they're effectively, the actual game inside the box is probably worth about £5. So this person,
if that, yeah,
1,499,000, I don't know, whatever it is, do your sums. They've paid £1.5 million for a sealed box.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for a common game.
I mean, my boss, when he was moving house, he was getting rid of loads of his old stuff, and he found his Nintendo 64. And I was telling my youngest boy about it, because he asked me, could I bring it home and just test the games out for him, because he knows I dabble with a bit of stuff like that. And while it was here, my boy said, "Oh, what does he want for it?" So I went back. I said, "Look," I said, "My boss, his name's Chris as well," and I said, "Like, my boy's really interested. How much do you want for your Nintendo?" And he went, "Well, if it's your boy, he went, just give us 80 quid." And it come with, like, I can't remember if it was 30 or 40 games, but some of those games, even though they're not sealed and some of them haven't got boxes and some of the boxes are a bit tatty, there was games like Banjo-Kazooie 2 in there, which is a rare game because it came out right at the end of the N64's life.
Yeah.
And some people would pay for what I paid for this entire collection. All right, he let me have it cheap because my boy was buying it. But there's people that would pay 80 quid for a Banjo-Tooie or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Would pay 80 quid for it without a box net because it's a hard game to find.
Yeah. It's just that game's not hard to find, is it? That's why you're going, it's got to have a spelling mistake or something. You're just looking at it so in depth to go, well, what makes that 1.5 million? And I just really...
They've got carried away on bidding. I mean, I told you before about that that Commodore 64, the silver label one that was like number 34 or something, and it went for like nearly $2,000. And all that's going to happen to it now is working.
Yeah, that would have to be number one off the production line for me to pay that. Do you see what I mean? It'd have to say 00001 or something, right? On it.
I love Commodore 64s, as you know, but I'd begrudge paying more than 40 quid for one. I don't mind paying 40 quid and then the postage, but that's pretty much my limit.
Yeah, but then again, I'm not a big fan of grading companies anyway. I mean, I've been in the industry enough with the comics and the trading cards that sending something off to Slab, seal it up so that you can't even read it again. Well, what was the point in the comic in the first place? A comic is supposed to be read, and a trading card. My God, they're starting to grade trading cards now, and it's gotten to such a state where they give you a template that you can put your trading card in, and you can see whether the lines are dead square and in the center. And if it's got more of a left edge than a right edge, then basically it's a 7 and it's a 9 only if it's. I'm just turning around and going, I'm sorry, you just.
I'll tell you one of the funniest trading card things I know of is about 5 years ago I started playing Magic the Gathering, the card game.
Yes, Magic the Gathering, yeah.
Because my youngest boy was interested, and I thought, well, they're not that expensive. You can buy starter decks and stuff like that. And we was doing that, and I found out through due course, every single Magic the Gathering card has got a fault on it, because there is a little line on the back of the card, because they'd printed so many. they couldn't then stop it, because people would be able to see, oh, that's an old card from whatever series. So they've left that mark on the back ever since. Yeah. Since 1994 or whatever, when it come out, that print there has had to stay.
It's a printing industry, so what do you expect? You are going to get runs with problems and all sorts of stuff. At the end of the day, when we were buying them, me, particularly as a collector, we just wanted all of the chase cards and the cards. We weren't bothered whether it was square in the center and all that sort of stuff. Now it's all about, it's got to be square in the center as well as all the chase cards and the folder that came with it. And I'm going, now you're just turning it into a business. And this is where I'm going. The business side of things should be for those things that came out in the war, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the really stuff that they printed millions of, but they were all pulped because we were short of paper. There was a war on. There was all of that sort of stuff. What turned the comic industry into a big problem before was the pure speculation that these people on the stock market thought that if we bring out a hot comic with a hot artist and we do #1 and we do 36 variant covers, and the 36 variant cover is only 1 in every million or something, right? And you manage to get that one issue, then you can turn that into like stock bonds. It'll be your nest egg. You can go to college in 15 years time on the sale of that comic. Well, that's pure speculation. It didn't work because what they didn't understand was they printed millions of them.
Well,
they're not scarce.
I'm still waiting for my Iron Man #4 to go up in value.
Well, that's it. But that's more likely to do that than any comic that's out there that's 1 in 25.
Well, I bought it for $4.95 in about 1988, and I think in the 33 years since that, it's gone up 20 quid. It's worth $24.95 now. Things are skyrocketing for me.
Yeah, but who's to say that who's to say that when you actually get to 60 or 70 that won't be a good £50 comic? That's what I'm saying.
Getting back to this Mario 64 game, I mean,
yeah, sorry about that.
I would absolutely love to speak to the person or whoever's bought it and say, I mean, they must have buyer's remorse. I mean, they must be sitting there right tonight watching this video, probably sitting there with they're looking at their bank account and they're 1.5 million overdrawn, and they're looking at their copy of Mario 64 and they're going into eBay and they're like £2.50. I mean, surely to God, if that person tries to sell that game and he puts buy it now 1.5 million, you're going to go, I'll give you 40 quid because it's sealed. Oh, but it's been rated as a 9.86. I don't give a fuck what it's been rated as. It's a sealed cop. It's a sealed box. I could buy one in a decent box, put cling film around it, suck all the air out of a straw. There you go. It's the same thing. 1.5 million. Surely that guy has just effectively lost 1.5 million.
It depends who he is. I mean, if it's someone, with the same sort of money as like, your Elon Musk or your Bill Gates, he'll make it back in a day. It depends. If you've got that, if you can chuck 1.5 million at an N64 game, and not a very good one at that, if you ask me.
Common as muck,
it's got to be someone that has got more money than sense. I mean, we might be sitting here slating someone. It's a perfectly decent person, and it's something they've wanted all their life, and they had the money to buy it. You don't know, do you?
Mm.
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me at all if it came out in the news a couple of weeks later that it's been some sort of scam or whatever. Just I don't know. We just kind of stick it all before we kind of move on for games. Al Lopez is saying there, if you see some of the copies of Ghana Sisters.
I own a copy of that.
Over to Panther, Go on, Panther, tell us your story.
Well, no, it's only, I mean, if you were looking at grading, it's probably only a 5 or a 6 because, the cover's a little bit tatty. Yeah. But literally, I bought a couple of, I think it was, I wanted to buy a 1541. And it was an exchange of markers before eBay. This was in about 1995, 96. And I wanted a 1541 drive. And obviously they weren't in the shops anymore. And some guy was sending it an exchange of mark in the computer bit in there. It was a drive round from North London, southeast London, southwest London. And he just said, well, I've advertised it for this much, but it's more than just that. I mean, what you got then? And it turned out to be like 3 Commodore 64s, a disk drive, a few C2Ns, a big box of games, and a load of joysticks and power packs. And out of all the games that were original, one of them happened to be Gianna Sisters. I never thought nothing more of it. It's just went in my tub with all my Commodore 64 games. But now people sell them for ridiculous amounts of money. I don't know. It's a good game, but I don't think it's worth what people are asking for it. I mean, the front cover on the British boxes, they're bloody ugly.
200 quid's not 1.5 million. You know,
No,
what I mean?
it's not 1.5 million.
I understand anything that's kind of considered rare is going to go for a pretty penny. So auction's saying there, those grading shitheads tried their hooks and lemon. We're talking about the guys that rate games or something. I'm assuming they must be.
Yeah, Ox has also said, Del, can you do him a favour and put BT Sport 1 on your telly? And Holly's son's saying 2.1 million for a piece of printed paper for a Pokemon card.
Yeah.
And that's like Del saying, and like there's a Magic the Gathering. It's not 2.1 million. The Black Lotus card, one of them in good nick, is worth £10,000. But the thing is, this is the thing when you look at the card games and that, it's the same as football stickers when you're a kid. When like someone say, "Oh, I want you want the Arsenal badge, I want like 3 stickers for that." It's like, well, bollocks! I didn't pay an extra 20p because that was in the packet. It's worth the same as every other sticker.
You know what I think makes the whole Mario 64 thing so incredible. Apart from it just being we're not talking about 50 grand or 100 or 250. We're talking about 1.5 million quid, which is serious money in anyone's book. I owned the exact game in the exact condition at some point. Yeah. I owned a copy of Mario 64. It was shrink wrapped. It was brand new.
Yeah. But you wish you hadn't opened it and you still had it in your drawer.
Exactly, because it was shit. Nah, it's not shit, it's all right. But yeah, the fact that I've actually owned that exact thing, it wasn't like it was like the first copy or anything. That's what they're saying. It was just because it was an iconic game and it's in such good condition. But come on, 1.5 million. Colin Jones is saying there, yeah, some people are talking about, is it money laundering? I don't know.
Yes, that's a good way of laundering money. But then again, I think that went through an auction. I just don't know. Yeah. You see, auctions are pretty good when it comes to fake and laundering money and so forth. It's quite a monitored thing. So,
Paulie's saying there, sorry, the Hallmeister, it's all like crypto coins. It's worth what it's worth. For example, what the next man will pay till the world and his wife jump on and inflate the price. But I can see it all going bang out at some point. I mean, the whole sort of classic hardware is going a bit mental on eBay at the moment.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, what's a C64 going for now? Just a bread bin, standard bread bin.
If you buy one that's with a box and in good nick, people tend to start the bidding off at about. Well, actually, there's a lot of people that start it off at 99p, but they tend to push up towards sort of 60, 70. And then there's some people that are selling them for, 159.99, in the box, in good condition, still works. And, it's whether people will pay them. Mm-hmm. But I'm capable of cleaning them up myself, and I won't pay more than 40 quid for a Commodore 64. Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly the sort of slight less. Evening Chronosoft, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I think the slightly rarer machines, like your Amiga CD32s. I'm lucky I've got one of them. They're going, I think. Well, to say they're going for this price doesn't mean they're selling, but people are trying to sell them for about 300 quid. Your Vectrexes, they've always been quite pricey. Things like the Atari 100 are going for stupid money.
How much was a Vectrex when it came out in 81 or whatever it was?
I think, wasn't
it 199 in Woolworths?
That's the only time I saw it. It was in Woolworths. Yeah, maybe something like that.
I don't know. It's one of them things I've got zero experience of.
It's one of the few. It's one of the few bits of hardware I think that it sells for more than it's sold for. All right, if you factor inflation in, then yeah. £199 is probably more than £300 is now, but yeah, it was sold for say £200 then. It's selling for £300 now, so it's actually going for more than it's sold for originally. Whereas there's not many computers. I mean, if a C64 sold for £150, you'd say bloody hell, that's through the roof. But that's what it was kind of costing back in the day.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But the whole point, or sort of what I was talking about, was 10 years ago. I mean, Steve Benway, who's he's a good lad. Steve's got a really super impressive collection of games of hardware, but he bought it 20 years ago when nobody gave a shit. Nobody wanted
No.
a 64, so he was getting them for.
Well,
Couple
that question there that Paul's asking, what's the most anyone has paid for an old game? I haven't. I've not bought any old games. I've either got them job lotted in with computers that I've bought.
What about your Elite? You've got a few Elites.
I bought the. So yeah, the most I've paid for an old game is 25 quid, and I didn't pay for that because my missus bought it for my birthday, and that's the original Elite on the Commodore 64. And then I also bought Frontier for the Amiga, and I also bought the whatever the one was called on the PC because I can't remember now. Is it First Encounters?
First Encounter, yeah.
I'm just laughing at Milty's comment. Nearly had a heart attack. Turned on the laptop, see Mamemeister has a live stream going, clicking it, and for a moment I thought he'd spouted a second head. It's actually the right said Fred tribute, right?
No, we're too sexy for that.
Right, said Fred, yeah.
Evening, Milty.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll go and get them. I'll show you because they're in pretty good nick.
Oh, your things, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is? Have you ever paid? Paul paid 33 for a mint copy of Morpheus, and 33 quid for a Commodore 64 game. Thank you. 33 quid for a copy of a C64 game I suppose is quite a lot.
I think I've spent when we're talking about old games, I did spend £40 on an old adventure game that had a comic in it because the comic was the value. It was a Quest Probe Spider-Man copy for the Commodore 64. It happened to be the American version, and it came with a bundled comic, which made it valuable. But that's the only time I've bought
Well, you display them. There's
an old game that's worth any money.
Yeah, so Trev just said Al looks wee next to Chris. He's only about 4 inches shorter than me. He's just slouching.
Hey,
I've got very comfy sofas.
bloody hell.
Yeah, so the missus got me that for my birthday, and the only thing that's missing out of that is the keyboard overlay, but I could make one then quite easily. But the thing that impressed me about all of these,
Is that a tape, is it?
yeah, so it's a solid tape. But the thing that impressed me, the main reason I bought these original was for the books. This copy of the Dark Wheel in here, I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera. You look at the edge of that. This has never been read. It is absolutely immaculate. And I've found out of all of these because I've got I grabbed that one, and then I thought, well, since I'm buying that one, I might as well buy this as well, because obviously people that watch Alan's channel with me on it know that I like Elite Dangerous and that. So I bought that one, and again, this is another one where the actual manual itself is as tatty as fuck. I mean, look at, you can see how worn it is where someone's thumbed through it. Then you go to stories on the life of the frontier, and it's absolutely immaculate. It's like it's never been read before. And the main reason I bought these is because I wanted the literature that came with it. So yeah,
you want to watch with that, haven't you?
Yeah, and then I grabbed that one just because everyone was selling them for 75 quid, and I found one that was going for about 12 quid, and the price never went up. And it's all in the bag, and this one's in absolute mint condition as well. So yeah, as Holly's saying there, elite porn.
So what other versions do you need then? Apart, I mean, what other?
Well, the only one other than this is Elite Dangerous. Well, I've got that digitally, so I'm not going to worry about that. I was, because I know the oldie gamer Steve, he was one of the backers, and he did send me a Metal Elite badge, and I did say to him, if you've got Elite Dangerous you want to get rid of, I'll buy it off you. And he's like, oh no, I sold it ages ago. But that goes for 50 or 60 quid. But I've got the 3 classic ones. I'm not really worried about buying a load more.
Is it Craig? I think Chronosoft. I think it's Craig. He's asking, did the C64 have one of the crappy lens locks? I don't think the lens lock was a thing in the C64, was it?
What are you on about? What, for Elite?
Yeah.
What was the copy protection on the original Elite for 64? I think he's asking.
There weren't one, was there?
Did you not have to type a word in?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking the Starglider. I'm thinking the Starglider. No, there wasn't. I don't think there was any copy protection. Well, there probably was copy protection, but I don't think you had to type.
Yeah, the lens lock. I think it was that piece of plastic, wasn't it, with a shifted plastic
you had to hold
piece
it
of.
up to whatever it was.
But I don't think that was in Elite.
Yeah, Colin's saying their manual for the disc I had it on disc as well. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if it had any copy protection.
Well, let's have a look. It should be in the quick start guide. Let's have a look because it will say, won't it?
So Dale, just when Chris is looking for that, did you have to? Sorry, I'm just looking at that. You've even got the wee warranty card as well.
Yeah, and the poster.
So you've got everything. I've got all that. Plus, I've got a little.
Yeah, all I'm missing is the keyboard overlay.
And if you look at Perry Fraptic's page today, his latest broadcast, you can actually buy that overlay now from a guy on the internet.
All right, I've managed to source a high res JPEG of it, so I was going to print one. But yeah.
No, but it was just a company bringing out all these overlays that Micropros used to come out. They decided to do an Elite one as well.
That's interesting what Ox is saying there. He says the download only market has killed collectability. It has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. My brother-in-law is quite a heavy Switch user, like Nintendo Switch, and I was like, we was at work, and he was saying, oh, "I'm going to order this, whatever game it was he was buying," and I'm like, "Can't you buy that now? Just on the Nintendo shop?" And he went, "Well, I could, but it'll cost me an extra 15 quid."
It will, yeah.
Yeah, so it was cheaper for him to wait a couple of days or wait until the next day to get it from Amazon Prime on an actual physical. Well, they look little SD cards, didn't they?
Yeah.
Get a physical one of them and save himself 15 quid than downloading it digitally today. It's just crazy. I mean, how can you pay more for something that you haven't even got a box or anything with?
It's the same with bloody Kindle books. You can actually buy a paper copy cheaper than you can the Kindle version.
Crazy.
Just bear with me.
There's a way to change the channel. So going back to what Ox was saying, I mean it's interesting because the Xbox 360.
So
we're talking about has download killed collectability on the Xbox 360. I've got the original Outrun 2. Which came out on Xbox Arcade and also it's Afterburner, I think it was. They've now lost the licenses for these, so you can't physically get these games. And it's the same with the PlayStation 4. There was a game, it was going to be a Silent Hill game that was coming out on the PS4, and they released a demo. Konami released a demo called the PT demo, and it's fucking terrifying. You basically walk around this little house, you just go around in circles. And it's like the jump scares. But that was a demo, and you can't get that anymore. And apparently, people are now paying more money for like the PlayStation 4 that's got that demo still on it. So you're still going to have that. But
I mean, I've got my PS3 keeps overheating. I've got to redo the paste on the heat sinks on the inside of it. I've got to take it to bits and do it properly. But I've got Afterburner and Outrun Coast to Coast on there. I've still got them on, and my PS3 is one that will play PS2 games. It's one of the
first ones. Yeah. Paulie's saying you need. Sorry, Del, you need to play Elite extended version with second processor on the Beeb. We played them in non-stop at uni to find the generation ships in Mission 3. What the hell's a generation ship? Even in ZX.
I've never played the extended version.
Second processor. Apparently, the Archimedes, I think it is meant to be the definitive version of Elite. The original, that is meant to be the best version, according to. By the way, thanks very much. We've got 30 people watching tonight. You guys must have fuck all else better to do. Jesus Christ, go and get a life and watch Netflix instead of us.
That's all right. Scott's saying there he likes Rescue on Fractors. It's a great game, and the Atari 8-bit version is the best version of that game. The 64 one's good, but it's not as not as smooth as the Atari one. The Atari one's fucking superb.
It's the same with. I did do a video with that, and also what was it? Eidolon, and
the Atari version is the one to
It's got a little bit. It's got a little bit of an extra intro as well, hasn't it? When you're leaving the ship.
Yeah.
I think you've. No. The C64 one's got that one as well, Dale. But I think the Atari one, you get a kind of opening loading screen. It's like the spaceship, and you see the spaceship going like that, and he flies around. It's this big silver kind of spaceship.
That's what I was trying. That's what I sort of. That's what I was sort of meaning.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to get at with before, why I left just for a moment, because you were talking about digital copies getting rid of collections. They do try and keep physical media alive, because, like I say, like this Switch version of 3D Super Mario World, which is just like you're saying. I mean, the game is that size. I mean, it's like incredibly small, right? They do steel books. You know, oh, buy this, but if you pay an extra couple of quid, you'll have the limited edition steel book, which has got a number, and there are only so many of them, and that makes you buy the physical one.
Oh,
that's the only thing I think that keeps probably media alive.
It's like Trev's reminding me of something. I'll be back.
Okay.
What?
Where are you going? You're going to stick the kettle on, mate, when you're through. Is there a beer? Is there a beer? You got a beer.
The only ones
you've got my cider. I go and get a couple of ciders. Dale, are you want a cider?
Oh yeah, thanks.
Well, you need to go to the bloody local Spar, because I'm not bringing it round. Okay, Neil.
Spar? There ain't no Spars around here.
Right, Trevor's saying it's why when we do C64 stuff, we love doing the big box releases. It's great doing all the extras. Yeah, I think that's a thing that, whilst I'm not a game collector, so I don't really buy them, I can completely get when new developers bring out new games and you can buy the tangible game, you get the cassette inlay, you get the instructions, you might get a wee badge with it, you can get it on cartridge, and that's obviously what we're hoping to do with Way of the Exploding Pish. It's definitely looking to kind of get some tangible versions. So Del, can you come back to paying a lot of money for games? Have you ever lashed out a lot of money for a game, like more than it was worth?
Like I said, I bought one that was an American release because it had a comic in it. That was the only time I've bought a retro game from the past. Only, you know, in the last couple of years, which cost me more to buy now than it did back when it was originally released, because the game when it was released was £9.95. What I paid for it was like 40 or 50 quid. But the only reason for that was it came with a comic, and the comic is worth more money than the game. It had an inbuilt comic inside it.
Nice. So evening, Kev, Mr. Down the Rabbit Hole. Do not adjust your TV sets. Cheers. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, you. Look, I'm going to have to go and get a drink now. So look, you go and have a chat for a minute.
What do you make of that, Dale? A bit smelly, eh?
Yeah. He's gone now, so it's all right. What Trev's saying there, when they do the big box games. Sorry, Trev, I've got to talk about the enemy. I've done a bit of work with Cytronic, and with some of their big box games, they went back with the game Barnsley Badger, and they got me to record the soundtrack that Andrew Fisher did for the game. And then when they done that, Ken said to me, you know, would you be interested in doing anything else? And so I haven't done these Sid Effects albums for a while, but I sort of have, because I've got this one here, The Lost Amazon. I don't think you've even seen that yet, Al. I got a copy there, mate. Have a look. I got a copy of that, and what they're doing now is they're doing like a big box version of the game. Like there's a disc, there's all the usual feelings in it, but also you can get a.
Is that a disc?
That's a CD. It's a full CD.
Oh, it's a CD. Sorry, I thought
yeah.
That's right.
They're doing soundtrack CDs as well. So there's something you can think about, Trev. I know you've done a Kickstarter, or someone has, for the Soulless soundtrack that I backed, which was successful. So that was good. And yeah, so I'm going to get the soundtrack to the game on CD and a copy of the special edition of Soulless, like the tightened up version with the they tweaked the way the character jumps about and that. And yeah, this is Trev saying that. Yeah, this is Richard Bayliss tunes, and I think there's a couple of Was Pilkington ones on there. I ain't got my glasses on, so I can't read the back properly.
I can't even read it either. My arms aren't that long enough to hold it back.
But yeah, it's a lot of Richard Bayliss tunes for all the Lost Amazon
That's a
stuff.
bit bloody saucy, is it not? For a Saturday night? Holy monkey. Nice. Yeah, so have you got any of the kind of modern games that have come out for like the 8-bits and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I bought Soul Force. I bought
Go for it, Paul. Yep. He's going to go and grab a drink.
Oh, good for him. I think it was it Age of Heroes, the game you did, Trev? I bought that one. I bought Rocky Memphis and the Legend of Atlantis. And then I bought there was a special thing I think Cytronic were doing where you got like 8 games for a £5. I think it was like Barnsley Badger and a couple of others. So yeah, I do dabble in the modern stuff. I mean, these guys put a lot of effort in, and you know they haven't got the regular salaries and the time constraints they used to have. And yeah, Richard Bayliss does do some corking tunes. Alan is a particular fan of his version of Oxygen 6.
I've never actually heard that, mate. If it was another central, I'll need to have a look for that one, eh?
But yeah, I'm in Devon, Kev. Alan's come up a bit to me. Yes, yeah. So those 2 games I bought that Trev took part in. So yeah, it's quite good.
Nice, One thing I do like about the modern games is, I mean, they're really, I think there's a lot of people saying that, what was the name of the game? Sam's Journey was probably technically up there as one of the best games ever. You know, they've got the technology, they've got all the routines and that. I mean, we've got the connoisseur in tonight. We've got Panther. He's bloody sitting next to me.
Hello.
Paul Morris. I mean, obviously Paul writes for the Zap magazines. He gets to play all the latest games, and it's amazing just how many new games are actually coming.
Well, yeah,
out.
I mean, you've got Paul in that reviews. I mean, you've got Trev in that makes them.
Evening, Scott. How are you, mate? Yeah, nice little turnout, considering it was completely
Unadvertised.
unexpected. Yeah. Sam's Journey. You have got Sam's Journey, have you? How far have you got in it?
I think I've done better than you because I've got to level 3.
If you got off level bloody 1, you're doing better than me, mate.
But yeah, I mean, Sam's Journey is the same guy that bought you a copy. Andy Williamson. Yeah, he was. He bought me a copy of it as well. That's quite a nice thing because I wasn't expecting it. He wanted to see a review of it, wanted to see what I thought of it. So he bought me a copy of it, which is great. You know, I don't expect anything for making YouTube videos, but you know, it was a really nice gesture. You know, like a nice gesture from Del. Alan remembered to bring the dictaphone thing with him, so I've got it now. Cheers, mate.
My pleasure.
Paul's saying there he's got over 100 C64 games on a spreadsheet that are in the works. Wow, that is a lot of games.
Well, you've only got to look at those little Zap, the new Zap magazines that I showed you earlier on. There's 10 games in each of them. You know, it's 20 games over 4 a year, so over 3 months. 40 games over 6 months or whatever for a system that went out of production in 1994.
You know, the irony is there's probably more games getting made for the C64 now than there were probably back in, 1994, the sort of the final couple of years. I always remember, even though I'd got rid of my TAR ST, I'd got rid of my C64, I still used to go into John Menzies and I used to pick up the Zap magazine, and it was a pamphlet. It was literally a pamphlet, and it had, I think it got ridiculous. It got to the point where it was like 4 or 5 tapes, sellotaped to the front of this thing. And you picked it up and it just flopped over with the weight of the bloody tapes. Yeah. But there was really no games coming out for it. And now we've got...
I'll tell you what, I think the new mini Zaps are fucking superb. I mean, I've written a couple of bits for the annuals. I haven't been asked to write for the little magazine yet, but I would do if a drop of a hat if they asked me to. You know, anything to do with like music or whatever, because I think they're really, really good. And yet I've tried Fix It Felix for the 64, Kev. I featured that in my Commodore 64 graphics are brown video where I was trying to prove that they weren't just brown, successfully, I hope. And also, even though it's a little bit of a cheat, that might feature in an up-and-coming Commodore 64 arcade port video, because I have got on my PC somewhere a copy of Fix-It Felix Jr. that was in the old Donkey Kong style cabs when they were promoting the film. I've actually got the program, so
when you're finished pimping your bloody channel, anyway, let's move on.
It's all right. You're monetized. You haven't got my fucking fee yet.
What's that? Papers, Please was my most recent retro remake game purchase. What Holly? What is that one? What system is that on?
Is that one where you're a sort of a border between a country and you have to have your papers ready? It was released several years ago. Is that what that was? You had to have your papers and you had to stamp them through, and they went through, and you had to work out which one was the forged one and which one wasn't.
I don't remember that one. Do you remember? What system is it on? Trevor's saying there, I'm so tempted to stick with single load C64 games in future. They always feel more retro, if that makes sense. Yeah, always. What were your thoughts on like multi-load games? I was never a big fan of multi-load games, so that's why I didn't really like the old Ocean or the movie tie-ins.
They were a lot better when I moved to disc, even though the 64 disc drive was a bit slow. But if you had a 1541-2 and an Epix fast loader on Action Replay, they weren't too bad. But from tape, where you had to rewind it, at least with disc, it's the same as when you're playing music from a compact disc. If you want to listen to track 2 and you're on track 8, it's just bang, 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 bang on the button, and you're back. Yeah. You're back there, where the discs were like self-reading. You didn't have to rewind anything. So, if you're producing stuff on tape, I can definitely say, I prefer a single load. I mean, some of the single load games we got, like Commando and Ghosts and Goblins, it's unbelievable they managed to fit all that. Like Parallax, look how big that game is, and it's on a single load. I can see what Trev's saying. But if you're doing cartridge type stuff, that takes a lot of the loading out of it.
Well, John here mentioned in I think I put it out one of the episodes that
you've put it in your channel now, right?
And he was talking about 3D as international tennis, which I've seen it, I've never played it. And he was saying that they actually built a whole world into it as well.
Bloody hell.
And he's talking. Have you watched that one? He was talking about World of Sensible Soccer, and they actually paid this guy who was about a kind of football nut to type in all these games. I mean, they even had like Algeria, like 3 divisions in Algeria and all that. And it was just absolutely insane. But,
I've only watched the first 2 of them. I've got 2 to catch up on, but. It'd be a bit rude just to sit here and watch your channel while you're here.
You want to watch up? No, we'll talk about tomorrow with Holly about fighting over the size of Sid.
Oh yeah,
we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, suffice to say, hopefully, I think we'll need to see what happens.
Yeah,
we've hopefully got a decent bit of surprise when it comes to the
Sid
music.
Yeah.
How's the Sid music coming along, Panther? For the game?
I haven't heard back from my man in the know.
Okie dokie. Just thought I'd keep the speculation going. It is. There was all speculation of who it is, and Alan was going, "Oh, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you," and all of this sort of stuff. So I just thought, well, I'll keep the speculation going.
Sorry, just quickly, I kind of interrupted there. Holly said that's the one Delboy. It's a PC release. Talking about that. What was it? Pass the paper, please, or something?
Papers, please. It's a border control type game. I think it was on Steam. I think it was released on mobile phones as well, but I'm not sure. But I got it on Steam.
So was Scott saying I had a Mac. Was that a Mac 128 cartridge, which was similar to the Epix Fastload cartridge? I had a C64. Sorry, 128, not a C64. There was also Mac 5.
I watched the video, one of Adrian's digital basement videos. Oh, he's off now as well.
I'm just going to look for something in my bag.
All right. I watched Adrian's digital basement. He did. He was testing out all the different fast loaders.
Yeah.
And the Epix fast load and one of the Action Replays were really, really quick. So whereas a game might take like a minute or two to load from disk, you're getting it down to between 5 and 20 seconds. So when you get down to that sort of speed, the multi-loading is not so bad. I mean, we moan and laugh when we look back about all the different loading times we have, but when I turned my Commodore 64 on yesterday, so Alan could hear what my stereo setup sounds like through my surround system in here.
Yeah.
And I turned that computer on, and I didn't have a 40 gig download before I could do anything. Whereas, the games might have taken ages to load back in the day, but at least it weren't a 3-hour download before you started.
I want you to try that. I know I've showed it before. That's my Mamemeister cartridge.
Your Mamemeister cartridge?
It's got 20. I basically got to pick what games I wanted.
All right.
And there's like 20 games, and it actually comes up the Mamemeister top 20 or something. It's actually, I can't remember where I got that. I think it was Retro for Sale or something. Somebody was doing that. Anyway, yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have a look at that. Obviously, you lot won't see that. Sorry.
Let's have a wee look at any comments.
What's the community saying? I haven't read it for a while. Let's have a little look.
Paul saying, if a game justifies a multi-load, that's fine by me. I think certain games suit single loads better though, particularly arcade segment. I mean, some of the games that you featured in your arcade conversions in the C64, like that were single loads, it's like bloody hell, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, when I do make them videos, I tend to cut the loading out. I do try and mention if it's a multi-load, but there's a few like where I did. I think it was Alien 3 in the Aliens video I did, which was on the Commodore 64. I'm sure I had that on a cartridge image, so the loading was like bugger all.
Yeah.
So, cartridges are the way to go, but they're expensive to produce and they're expensive to sell. I mean, it depends on the game, but there's probably a lot of people that, unless they're a hardcore collector, would justify spending 40 quid on a Commodore 64 game. To get the cartridge. I mean, I'd love to have the money to do that. I mean, some of the stuff Trev's been involved with. I mean, Trev's a terrific artist. Some of the artwork he does for these games is a lot of Trev's artwork reminds me of 80s metal album covers. Like your Iron Maiden type stuff, and it's really good stuff. So I'm going to bleeding buttering Trev right up here, anyway. But yeah, he's a really good artist. So having that box with that piece of artwork on is almost like buying an album, and you've got the artwork. It's lovely to have them.
You've got something to look at, and that's what you totally miss with all the old CDs. Now you don't go to your mate's house and look at his CD collection, but you used to kind of look at your albums, and you just fucking you would flick and leaf through them.
Well, that's it. I mean, me and you were talking about music earlier on, and I put it up on the screen. I use a program called Music Bee, which is a free iTunes type player, and he was looking through my albums, and it was just a list of pictures of album covers and that, and then you want to look at the track, you click on the picture. Trev, £5 in the post. Cheers, mate. So I was looking through the music I've got on my computer, but it was just like pictures of album covers, and I was showing him a bit of the 8-bit symphony stuff, and of course I click on the album cover, and then you've got all the track list underneath. I mean, I could have gone upstairs and got that CD off the rack because I've got one signed by Rob Hubbard and Chris Abbott. So I've got a signed copy of it.
I've got to say that's the first time I've heard the symphony. It is absolutely mind blowing. I mean, you've got all the classics there. You've got Forbidden Forest, Aztec Challenge, Monty on the Run. It's Parallax? No, Parallax wasn't one of them, was it? No.
Yeah, the high score music was part of the Barbarillax song.
Just, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Cheers for that, mate. It's nice.
No worries, mate. No worries. He's saying, what's Holly saying again? 2 through. Boot time, 2 seconds. But Michael's not 2 minutes, please. Your system needs updating. Yeah, exactly. So just kind of moving on a wee bit. I know we've kind of touched on it before and probably Chums talk Pish. Do you think that there's always a big collecting thing amongst gamers? We can buy the C64s and the Spectrums that went back in the day. Do you think that in 30 years' time people will be buying PlayStation 5s and because it's going to be digital only? I mean, I was listening to a podcast, Retro Asylum. Great fantastic podcast. Go and check it out. And they were talking. The guy was talking to Antstream, and that's, if you don't know what that is, you can probably explain what it is exactly.
Well, Antstream, it's an online gaming streaming service. It's like Netflix for retro games. I mean, me and Al was sat by the sea on a bench earlier on when we was talking to Del, and after we spoke to Del, I was saying, oh, let's see what Antstream's like over 4G, and I put on Space Invaders, and I was sat on a bench by the sea playing Space Invaders on my phone, and there was no lag from network coverage or anything like that. It just works. It's a pretty good system.
And
It's because the game's cached, isn't it, by the time it's down there, so that's it.
And what the guy said was, this guy, I can't remember what his name was, he's a big player. He was involved in the setup of like the achievements and the PlayStation, and he worked with, I can't remember, he's worked with all, is it 2000 and I don't know, he's worked with loads of big companies, a bit of kind of big player, and he was saying that in 20 years time he firmly believes that you're just going to stream games. You're not going to download them, you're not going to buy them, you're just going to stream them.
Yeah.
So I've got a question from Holly there. There it is. Just shit. Yes, I do have a dual SID setup. I've got.
Oh, here we go. Bloody hell! What, Holly? Do you want? Right, let's hear the 10-minute story then. Come on, Panther.
I wish he was in the room, so I've got an empty bottle I can hit you with. I've got a 64C that one of my many Commodore 64s that come out of my mum and dad's loft, and basically I was wanting to listen to SID music while I was walking to and from work. I don't mind mono music when it's coming through a big sound system, but through headphones I'm not over keen on it. And I messed about with reverb and stuff on recording from SID play, but it didn't sound right. And I was reading about dual SID setups, and I watched a load of videos of people making them, making their own ones and loads of wires. And I thought, I don't really fancy doing that too much. So I found out about this thing called the SID FX. You can put any SID chip in any Commodore 64. So I decided to go with a 6581 in one side and 8580 in the other, and that was it. I recorded the music, and I had stereo SIDs. It works better with some than it does with other SID tunes, depending on the sounds they make. And then I sent a copy I recorded of Rob Hubbard's Delta to Chris Abbott at C64 Audio, and said, I'd really like to put an album of these together. I don't want to charge any money for it or anything. It's not my music. I'm just recording it. But, it will take me a bit of time because I like to mess about with the balancing to try and make it so it's not all like some 8580 tunes. The bass really comes out of one side, and I like to try and mix it together. And, he said, yeah, go for it. And I ended up recording all the original 64 music for the 8-bit Symphony. Like when they did the show at Hull, the interval music was all stuff that I recorded. The intro music was stuff that I recorded, and that's it. That's what I've done with my dual SID setup, and it was only ever done originally so I could have stereo SID music walking to work for half hour in the morning. So there you go. I won't stretch the story out anymore because I can see Del slipping into a coma.
I can testify. I was sitting over there, and Panther's he's got a big fuck off. He's got 4 speakers, big fuck off Sony speakers there, and listening. He was kind of like you were switching like one SID chip off, and then he was switching the other one on, and then he played the both of them. And I can. It's an awesome. Absolutely, it does give a new dimension. It gives a new dimension to listening to SID music. If you can imagine listening to a tune on a little transistor radio that you got in the 70s, Dale, you'll remember that. You were old enough. Imagine that, going from that to like a proper stereo system. It is bloody epic.
I'd just like to say to Bud Bucko, no, the SID musician for Mamemeister's game is not fucking Jim Cuomo.
Oh, yeah, he's asking. It's not him, right?
No, it's not.
Who's Jim Comer?
That's Lucosa's favourite, isn't it? When I say favourite, I mean that sarcastically.
I didn't know, and I gave you a link earlier on, Panther, that there was a SID chip inside a machine at the same time as the Commodore 64 called the Commodore 6510. The 610 it was called, CBM 610.
Yeah, I did see that. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, mate, because I saw that as I was sending.
The reason I gave you that link is A, it's got a SID chip in it, which I didn't know, and 2, they brought out a game in 2016 for specifically that machine, and it's got a SID tune in it. And I was going, why? There's another one to do in dual stereo. There you are, look. It even mentions who the actual composer was, and I thought, oh, well, there you are.
Colin's just come up with a little interesting bit of trivia, which I never knew. Gottlieb were going to put 2. Was that SID chips? No, what's that?
Yeah. They were going to put 2 6581 SIDs into an arcade board, but what you're saying, yeah, Commodore wanted to keep the SIDs for themselves because the Commodore 64 was skyrocketing as a successful system. So they was like, nope, we're going to keep them.
We've just had a hello all. I'm not even going to attempt to try and read his name. Is that in Russian or something, is it? I'm not sure.
It does look Russian.
Bloody hell. Jim Kumo did the music for Intergalactic Cage Match, and it was an epic game if ever, eh?
There you go. Scott's saying Jim Cuomo is dead now. He did some decent stuff on the Amiga, believe it or not, but his C64 stuff was out of Pish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I heard it as well, Colin, on the Ted Dabney podcast. That's another good podcast.
Right? It is.
That's another good one to listen to, and the guys that do that are absolutely sound.
Well, man, it's Holly a Klingon or something?
What?
What's Holly's talking there?
I don't know.
Is that writing backwards or something? Sorry, Holly. What is that?
We're going to have to be careful tomorrow. If she tries to pass you microfilm and a briefcase, I've got a feeling Holly could be a closet KGB looking at that.
I'm sure if we get a mirror and put it up, it'll actually make sense. Apologies if it's a different language.
It is a different language. It's not backwards.
Well, what the hell? How did she get all that?
Google Translate.
Right.
No, I mean, I'm not. I'll take that back. Holly might actually be able to speak that language. My hovercraft is full of eels. Classic Monty Python.
Cheers, Kev. Thanks for dropping in, buddy. Yep. Listen, how we're doing for time. Bloody hell, it's half past 11.
You won't see us all tomorrow because Al's here.
Yeah, you won't. There'll be no live stream tomorrow night.
Oh, she speaks some Russian.
Yeah,
2 years in
go.
Moscow.
What? Bloody hell.
My hovercraft is full of eels, and then Collins put, I will not buy this record, it is scratched. It's only a matter of time before someone types up, my nipples explode in delight. That's part of the same sketch.
Anyway, listen, I suppose we better think about Colin before we wake up your wife with all our tittering and hee-hawing, I think. So, yeah, anything else you want to touch on, Dale, before we call it a night?
No, I don't mind. Whichever way you want to go with this. I've had great fun. Thanks very much. If anybody wants to ask me a question, they can. I've had a great time listening.
Yeah, listen, thanks to everybody tuning in tonight. That's not a bad little I'm leaving it. Private Pantera Alan Ubli Duki. I don't know.
Pantera is obviously Russian for Panther. I thought it was Spanish.
Oh, you saw the one I wrote, have you?
We have, yes.
Yeah. That was Google Translate. You didn't know that.
Evening, Dave. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you, man.
I've learned everything I've ever needed to from Raid Over Moscow. I'll have you know. I thought the world was going to end. I thought I better start learning Russian. That's how I did that.
We're going to let you get to your bed. It's 12:30 Greenwich Mean Time, so we're going to bail out.
It's 11:30.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, he's sitting in my bloody bed because I'm in the settee downstairs in the living room, so I want my bed. Listen, Holly, we'll see you tomorrow for a catch up. Get a wee game update, and we'll hopefully catch up more next week. I'll give you a wee update with maybe some more screenshots. Holly very kindly sent a few more screenshots got to say it's looking really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we're getting on with that. So listen, guys, thank you very, very much to everybody that's taking time to tune in. You know, there was no notice at all. You know, have a nice Saturday night. You've only got bloody half an hour. Have a nice weekend, and then until next time, guys, thank you very much. Take care.
See you later.
Bye.